many working people feel underrepresented. And then that allows a vacuum at the extremes for people who come in and give simplistic solutions for what are complex problems. So we really do need to involve and empower people locally to be involved in that decision making. And in order to do that, you've got to give them the funding to do that, the budgets to do that. But we have an issue in Ireland at the moment where we have unelected quangos delivering major utilities which are unanswerable to elected politicians like myself. And politicians did that to themselves maybe 20 years ago because of particular delivery issues. And I think we need to go back to empowering local politicians, empowering local people. We have a very good local electoral system to our local authorities, and it is easy to get on a ballot paper to get elected, but we need to give real power to local politicians. And I think that disconnect we have to address. It's not just an Irish issue. It's an emerging issue where people feel disconnected from politics, don't feel represented, and that creates a vacuum for political extremes.
Thank you. You mentioned very interestingly that, you also, like us in India, inherited a system from the British, which was over-centralized because it had only one objective of revenue extraction, right?
Control.
So, so how did in your own experience in Ireland, if you could help, if you can think of one or two big things that you were able to do to sort of reverse that. One, of course, happens through democracy, and but any specific actions that Ireland took over the last, 75 or 880 years?
I would say this about our politics. It's very local. I'm a national politician, but I do 2 or 3 local clinics every week where I sit in my constituency and people come in with all sorts of problems, seeking health services, housing, seeking access to special additional educational needs, looking for the rights for people who are living, say, with a disability. So I feel very connected. I'm a GP, I live in my constituency, and so I'm very easily accessible. And I think that is one of the strengths of our politics in Ireland, is that most of our national politicians live in their communities, are elected out of their communities, and are connected to their communities. And that's extremely important, and that doesn't happen in every jurisdiction. So I think that's one, I need to emphasize that strength. But on the other side of it, I do feel that we have politicians have divested themselves of accountability for major things like housing, infrastructural development like wastewater treatment, electricity and energy. And we need to get back to being accountable, but also then empowering local politicians, because you can't be accountable unless you've been empowered to make the decision in the first place.
Thank you. Thank you. And then I will come to my final panelist, Honorable Arjuna Sujiva from Sri Lanka. Sir, like India, Sri Lanka and many other developing countries face this challenge of local governments, again, depending heavily on national grants. A mismatch between their generation of revenue and yet no fiscal autonomy. How do you think, from Sri Lanka's experience, local governments can strengthen their own revenue sources and become more financially sustainable?
Well, I think they have to be innovative. Basically, it's the local government, they manage the streets, wastage, public health. So from birth to your death, the basics are handled by the local government. But as you say, we don't have a system for the local government to be progressive, and they don't work much on development. So they have to think out of the box. So being a leader of a constituency, and what I would always tell them is to be innovative. For them to find their own methods of doing business, to make it to the private sector, and as much as possible, because the system doesn't allow them to get any other grants from the government. It's a basic limitation that they have. So they have to think out of the box, and fiscally, I don't know whether we are allowed to do that, but we have to think of new innovations, how they can get involved in the development process, so they can get some money out of that as well. Especially one area that they could concentrate actually waste management. We started in certain areas to collect the waste and sort of manufacture electricity out of it. So, but that even those income goes to the central government. So it's not allocated to the local government. So they find it difficult to kind of get out of their comfort zone. But we have to think of innovative ways to do that. It's not easy.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm conscious of the time, so I want to give each of my panelists 1 minute each before we wind up. But I want to open a question to you all. And particularly from us, from Indian context, you've come all the way to India. And, you know, for India, it's very important to learn from your experiences. You know, India, today we have a population of about 1.4 billion people. We have add in about 3,000 plus or maybe 3,500 public representatives between the federal and the state governments. But we have a bureaucracy of about 30 million people, right? So we have a big challenge with local governance because as the democracy wants to push local governments, we have to deliver to 1.4 billion people, but there is a mismatch between 3,000 people and a 30 million structure that supports it. I'd be very interested and give you all 1 minute each to, from your perspective, and I know each country is different, what do you think from your country, there's that one unique example that could be of relevance that you think you could be very proud of in terms of the local governance that you have been able to achieve in them. So may I start with the panelists at the extreme left and we'll just go one by one.
From the Constitution, if I read, it is to facilitate the direct participation of the people in the development and management of their own social, economic, and environmental well-being. First thing. That's the very important thing. Okay, now the notion of having the local government separately is something very big. But we need to give a financial independence. But at the same time, I should be very proud of saying that in our society, our people are so responsible. They can we have given the government, the central government have given the financial independence to the local government. But it is, again, the people who should hold the leader accountable and make the leader make use of the funds allocated for them to the optimum utility for the benefit of the people. So I think it boils down to what sort of leaders, local leaders, they are going to elect and to what extent they can hold accountable. So I think that it boils down to the same thing again.
Thank you.
That's my final say.
I would say while maintaining the parameters of efficiency, good governance, accountability, I think you must give them autonomy for the local government to grow, for them to get into business, to privatize, and set up laws so they can be financially self-sufficient. I would not always think that the central government should always pump money. So the local governments would be, they'll have the autonomy to decide for themselves, and for them also to make sure that they also have a system to make some money and be more self-sufficient. And that's what I would think, because the basics are quite in place at the moment. So you have to think, I think, far ahead how they can improve the other areas in the constituency.
Dr. Martin Daly.
I suppose there's this tension about public service and private service and productivity. I think sometimes there's a sense amongst the public that public service is less productive than the private sector. Now, they're different creatures, but we must ensure that if we invest in our local government, that it must be productive. So we need to use digitalization, AI, and that to improve efficiency. But we need to do that. One of our big organisations, our health organisations that run our public health services, has had an increase over the last 5 years, because the economy's been doing well, of 45% in personnel, and yet we've invested as a government very heavily in AI and digitalisation. We're not seeing the productivity, and that's the challenge, because then local government falls into disrepute. So if we're going to invest money, it's got to be into efficient, representative local government, but we have to see returns for that investment, and it must be efficient and it must deliver for people in local areas.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the future is that central government can help local governments to help people directly. So currently in Estonia it's pretty easy to get online services, but what we are missing is that when someone is getting issues, like maybe is running out of money, have trouble with education and so on, in the future local government can actually prevent this by offering help in advance when things are still okay but are going south. Then local government could intervene using AI instruments. Now it's not there, but I think it's like 2 or 3 years in the future. And the second thing is certainly trust. People actually have to feel that the local government is there. We try to achieve that with different direct democracy instruments. People can easily make petitions to the local government. We need 1% of signatures, and that happens online. So we have a lot of initiatives coming from people to the local city councils using this. And we also have participatory budgets where people can offer ideas, and those ideas that win by the population vote, they are funded with the local government budgets. It helps people to understand that they are actually part of the process, and it works. So if you vote for, I don't know, local whatever school extension, and it's there in a couple of years, then you feel that it's your thing. The local government works for you, and I think the trust is the most important factor in the nowadays world, because people sometimes feel that local government and central government are really far away.
Thank you.
And I think for us it's also about that sense of transparency, and certainly using online digital AI platforms is a huge part of that. But fundamentally I also think it's about ensuring that local government and central government don't see each other as competitors but work together. There seems to be often a lot of blame that goes on between local and central government. The people that lose at the end of the day are the communities that we're all elected to serve.
Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for such a lovely panel, and thank you for your time. It was lovely to have you on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of you who were discussing, of course, the future of local governance there in that panel discussion. All right, a quick photo op, and then we will move on to our first keynote address of the day. We are, of course, continuing this segment on Next in People. Rather, we are, of course, switching that a bit. We're now going to be talking about Next in Civilization. And in this segment of Next in Civilization, to give an address on the Gelephu model, we have with us Senior Communications Officer of Gelephu Mindfulness City Authority from Bhutan. In fact, Sherub Dorji is with us. Sherub Dorji, many thanks for joining us. Let's have a round of applause, please, for our next speaker at NXT 2026.
I'll be honest, if I knew my picture would be put up on the screen like that, I would have sent a better picture. Dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to convey the warm greetings and best wishes of His Majesty King Jigme of Bhutan. Good morning, Kuzampolo, everyone. I want to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present a special project emanating from the Himalayas. Gelephu Mindfulness City is GMC in short, is a royal vision of His Majesty King Jigme Gesar Namgyal Wangchuck of Bhutan and conceived under the direct leadership of His Majesty the King. So in the course of my presentation, I will I hope to convey at least what GMC stands for and more importantly, the tremendous opportunities it holds. Before I dive into what GMC is, perhaps I want to take a minute to talk about my country, Bhutan. Okay, so this is what we tell people, foreigners, and this is how foreigners see Bhutan. Young, handsome king, beautiful queen, tradition, culture, landscape, and all of it. Bhutan's image and reputation is very much steeped in our history, in our culture and heritage. Bhutan is basically a cultural hub. We are one in 10 countries which has never been colonized in the world. And it is also home to gross national happiness. It is our socio-economic development philosophy where we prioritize happiness over gross domestic product for our people. And it remains as one of the world's most pristine biodiversity hotspots. But this is where GMC comes in. This is where we tell the world that Bhutan is young and bold and dynamic, innovative, entrepreneurial. And this is where the story of Gelephu Mindfulness City comes in. As you can see, Bhutan is strategically located in the center of a large land economic corridor connecting the Middle East, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. Now, if you calculate the population in this area, India, China, and the Indian subcontinent, the population comes to around 3.3 billion people, which translates to 45% of the global population. So, GMC's, the Gelephu Mindfulness City's catchment area is almost half of the world's population. And we want to leverage this geographic and economic opportunities that we foresee for this region. And we want to attract investors, we want to attract businesses, and we want to attract people to live in GMC, be residents of GMC, while preserving Bhutan's unique assets. So, see, in an ever-changing world underpinned by geographical uncertainty, technology and economic progress, climate change, and all other macro challenges, Bhutan as a country now stands at an inflection point. So for a small country like Bhutan to survive, His Majesty King Jigme realizes that we must harness our strengths and demonstrate the boldness and dynamic spirit to ensure we create new economic pathways. And this is where GMC comes in. This realization resulted in this novel, radical, innovative plan in Gelephu Mindfulness City. It's a special administrative region that we have created. Now, how do we go about doing this? We go about doing this through the diamond strategy as envisioned by His Majesty the King. The vision allows for a one country, two systems model through the establishment of, like I said earlier, special administrative region. So what happens is, for the first 20 years, Bhutan and GMC will develop independently with GMC having a distinct governance framework. And 20 years after the first 20 years, the convergence begins where GMC will gradually reintegrate with the rest of Bhutan, culminating in this unified national system, one country with one system. So what happens is this allows GMC to be catalyst for reform, and ensures Bhutan modernizes in a structured manner while safeguarding our values and our traditions. Like I said earlier, GMC is a special administrative region. What that allows is it makes us a highly autonomous region where we are equipped with unique sovereign instruments. GMC Authority will have legislative, executive, and judicial powers to customize policies that foster a highly competitive business environment at the Gelephu Mindfulness City. Now, what a special administrative region entails, what this legislative, executive, and judiciary autonomy entails is that it gives us it means that the Prime Minister of Bhutan, for that matter, the Parliament of Bhutan, the judiciary of Bhutan will not have any say in how things are done, how regulations are set, how works are being done in Gelephu Mindfulness City. So now, as you can see, GMC has adopted Singaporean common law for its corporate, commercial, and company governance matters, and the Abu Dhabi Global Market Regulations for its financial services matters. What that allows is it provides investors familiarity, confidence, and assurance, and this business environment that is known throughout the world. So at GMC, we want to be fast, we want to be dynamic, we want to be entrepreneurial, and enact all these progressive policies, progressive legislation, processes, and systems. Think of GMC as this ultimate sandbox where, as an ultimate sandbox, as an economic engine, a launchpad, and this vibrant gateway for the world to engage with South Asia and vice versa. As for those of you all who are familiar with the geography of Bhutan, Gelephu Mindfulness City currently sits in the south-central part of the country. We are currently at 2,600 square kilometer demarcation, but we are going to over 4,000 square kilometers, which roughly is 5 times the size of Singapore. It is, as I said, situated in the southern foothills of Bhutan. We have started construction of an international airport, which is expected to be complete by December 2029. The airport is being built by Changi Group from Singapore, one of the best airports in the world. And one of our co-CEOs, Mr. Lee, was the CEO of Changi Group, Changi Airport, for 10 years. So he is personally involved in the construction of the airport. And we're also connecting the nearest Indian city railway of Kokraja with a railway link to Gelephu. The government of India has been kind enough to set aside 40 billion rupees to construct the railway link between the two cities as well. And as Bhutan transforms and as Bhutan develops, we plan to invest to build over 25,000 megawatts of hydro, solar, geothermal, wind, and other renewable sources of energy. Now, to the economic engine behind the Gelephu Mindfulness City, we are focusing on 8 core industries, which are spirituality, health and wellness, education and knowledge, agritech and forestry. Then we have green energy and tech industries. Then we have finance and digital assets, and aviation and logistics. So in the interest of time, I will focus on finance and digital assets and aviation and logistics. So at GMC, we want to be a leader in financial and digital assets, including the crypto industry, including the digital banking systems, innovation, and we want to integrate these banking systems, digital banking system across crypto markets and real-world asset tokenization. For example, we have already launched a gold digital token known as TER. TER in Bhutanese directly translates to treasure. So you can go to the website of TER and already start buying fractionalized gold as gold token, which is backed by physical gold. I can see the time is up, but I'll just quickly take a few more minutes. And finally, the Gelephu International Airport is also a transformative vision, transformative project which is central to the Gelephu Mindfulness City vision. The airport has already won 2 international awards, the Wholesome Foundation Awards, which recognized Gelephu International Airport design for its sustainable design and construction. It has also won the Future Project of the Year award at the World Architecture Festival last year. So we've already bagged 2 prestigious awards. And if you look at the picture, the airport will feature glue lamp timber technology with modular structure so that we can easily add on or remove the structures as and when needed. The rooftop of the airport will be fitted with solar power so that we minimize our carbon footprint. Basically, the airport itself aligns with GMC's and Bhutan's commitment to remain carbon negative and set this new benchmark for eco-friendly aviation infrastructure, the practice that we are starting to see globally. The airport is not just functioning, it's not just for landing and taking off and taking a plane and go to someplace else. It is deeply spiritual. Gelephu Mindfulness City's International Airport will be deeply spiritual. It will weave traditional Bhutanese arts, carpentry, carving, painting, and weaving. All of these things will be integrated throughout the airport structure. It will have spaces for yoga, for meditation, for sound healing exercises to create this meaningful, mindfulness-driven travel experience, which is truly unique to Bhutan. And the design itself ensures that every traveler feel immersed in Bhutanese culture right from the moment they arrive until the moment that they leave Bhutan. Now, this is one picture that we took during the construction of the Gelephu International Airport. When the airport construction was announced, His Majesty the King told the Bhutanese citizen that he himself will come and work at the airport, not just work, but he'll also bring his wife, the Queen. He'll also bring over his children, the prince and princesses, to work at the airport. And this is exactly what we saw. And just recently, in February, His Majesty brought along all the royal family to contribute voluntary manual work at the airport to work together with the people of Bhutan. Like I said, the airport will be completed in December 2029. These are some of the pictures of His Majesty, the King and the royal family engaging in voluntary manual work contribution at the airport construction site. And they really came down to the airport construction site to really work, not just for photo opportunities. And the city will seamlessly integrate all the urban spaces with nature and wildlife. We have also identified biological corridors for the Asian elephants to some of the areas in the city landscape. City infrastructure itself has been identified as biological corridors for the elephants. Part of the biological corridor is we're also now making watering holes, salt-licking areas for the wildlife so that we coexist with nature as the city expands. And you can also see the design of the city will ensure that it embodies Bhutanese values, mindfulness, and futuristic design. Right, that is it. When the airport opens in December 2029, I invite you all to be on the first planes to land in Gelephu International Airport. I invite all of you to explore investment opportunities in GMC, to come live in GMC, and to come work in GMC. I invite you all to connect with us to connect GMC to people in your network who would like to know about and invest in GMC, to let your contacts in people or in the media houses back in your home country to know more about GMC and write about GMC. And I invite you all to come visit GMC now and be an early witness to a new, sustainable, and mindfulness city that is being built. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. Kadin Shela.
Thank you so much, Sherub Dorji, for your presentation there, and of course, invite as well to our NXT Summit attendees. Okay, let's switch our focus now to India, Australia once again. For next in India, Australia, we have now with us the representative of Australia in India, the High Commissioner himself, for a keynote address, His Excellency Philip Green. OM, could I please have you on stage, High Commissioner of Australia to India. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thank you. Good morning, namaskar. Distinguished guests, dear friends, it's a great pleasure to be here on this key podium. Let me start with a simple proposition. You don't need to be a security policy expert to know that our contemporary world is sharper and more contested. More people are displaced. More people are hungry, and there is more conflict, not least the perilous situation in the Middle East, on top of an illegal and immoral war waged by Russia in Ukraine. We live in a rapidly changing world, a world where the major powers more frequently flex their muscles through military action, economic coercion, and cyber attack. Relatedly, we are experiencing an increasingly challenged world order. The change in the landscape is permanent. The disruption, the contest is permanent. In these uncertain times, reliability is a virtue. No longer is reliability a given. Reliability achieves a greater salience in a world that is disrupted. And it's on the subject of reliability that I want to speak to you today. I've been a diplomat for 40 years. During that time, I would have identified a number of characteristics of Australian diplomacy: active, problem-solving, creative, innovative. And Australian diplomacy still is these things. But in a different global context, being reliable is a virtue, and a more salient one. It's a virtue that has implications for all our important partners, for those closest to us, our family in the Southwest Pacific, for our partners in Southeast Asia, where respect for the rule of law has never been important, and our shared economic security and our prosperity. And for India, which has more regional and global agency than many of our other partners, but which also, I confidently identify, values reliability in its partners. India is a leading power in the region and the world, and Australia is a proud middle power. The world we want today, and the world that we want to inherit, to our children to inherit, is not only a matter for the great powers. Middle powers must be active and exercise their agency to secure a strategic balance, even as the majors more often and more intensively express their influence. We want a region of balance, a region where no country dominates and no country is dominated. Against this background, the Australia-India partnership has never been more consequential. Nor has the Australia-India partnership ever been in such good shape to engage in constructive regional diplomacy. To put it simply, no other Australian foreign partnership has come so far and so fast as Australia's relationship with India has over the past 5 years. That's not happened by accident. There are three key drivers that impel our partnership. One, our increasing strategic alignment, the convergence of our security interests and actions. Two, our economic complementarity, which has been potentiated as both countries seek greater diversification and as India pursues greater economic openness. And three, the human dimension of our partnership that has more salience now as the Indian population of Australia tops 1 million. But despite these tailwinds, as the tectonic plates shift, we cannot afford to stand easy. In these uncertain times, we need to work even more closely together. We need to sweat these three drivers and make them work harder for us. Allow me to explore these three drivers of our relationship in turn and demonstrate how we can use them to greater strategic benefit. First, our strategic convergence. The Indo-Pacific, our region where both India and Australia reside, is the world's future, it's where the world is being shaped, and it's where we have most on the line. It's also where we can have most effect. Our relationship is crucial for the region. In fact, I'd go as far to say as that we have an overriding responsibility as middle powers to support peace, stability, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. We can help build a region we want, a region in balance, where sovereignty is respected. Australia and India are using all the tools at our disposal to do so, working bilaterally, through the Quad and other minilaterals, and through regional institutions. We have increased our security and intelligence cooperation. Just looking at defence, the frequency of our military exercises has tripled over the past 10 years. India is now one of our very few top-tier defence partners. Through the Quad, we are supporting maritime domain awareness in the region and building our capability to respond to regional challenges. And our Prime Ministers have challenged us to produce a maritime security roadmap bilaterally to advance our maritime cooperation. Australia and India have many interests in common, but where our interests most intersect is where our geographies overlap, notably in the northeast Indian Ocean, where there is a lot of air and sea to monitor in this vital economic highway, and we can do that best if we work together. The second driver of our partnership is our economic complementarity. As some states weaponise trade and undermine supply chains, our work together to support economic security must continue to strengthen. For the past 8 decades, the world has relied on the architecture like the WTO, trade agreements, and the rules-based order to underpin growth. But these institutions and norms we worked so hard to build are being questioned, and the rules we wrote are being challenged. Australia is a medium-sized open economy. We rely on being able to send our produce, resources, and human capital to the world. Our response to these challenges has been to double down on our trading networks, not to resile from them. We are fortunate to have already strong connections via our 19 free trade agreements with 31 partners covering 80% of our two-way trade. But there's more work to do, including with India. Our Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, ECTA, which was signed 4 years ago between Australia and India, is driving economic growth. ECTA is saving hundreds of millions of dollars in tariffs for Australian and Indian businesses. And the 1st of January this year represented a landmark in our trade relations. From that day, 100% of Indian goods enter Australia completely duty-free. No asterisk, no fine print. Everything produced by India enters Australia with a zero tariff cost. That you can rely on. We both benefit from trade liberalisation. For Australia, if you take out lumpy items like coal, our exports to India have risen by around 90% since ECTA came in force just 3 years ago. And India is benefiting. Think about this. Over the past 5 years, India's exports to the world have grown by more than 40%. Sounds good, right? But in that same period, over the last 5 years, India's exports to Australia have grown by 200%. That means that India's exports to Australia are growing 5 times faster than India's exports to the rest of the world. But given the scale of the opportunity presented by our economic complementarity, there is much more we can do. That's why we are now negotiating to upgrade ECTA to a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement. There are many ways in which this can benefit us both, but let me just highlight one. India is on track to become a green manufacturing powerhouse, from batteries to solar and the wider clean tech ecosystem. But that relies on minerals and metals that Australia has in abundance. Australia is the world's largest lithium producer, with the second largest reserves in the world of nickel, copper and cobalt. We are uniquely positioned to support India's transition. Let's take copper in particular. Australia's high-quality copper concentrate can power India's accelerating growth in EVs, renewables, manufacture and infrastructure. But at present, copper products from Australia face tariffs of between 2.5 and 10% on entering India. That's the sort of drag on our new economy that we can ill afford. The third and final driver behind our reliable partnership is what our Prime Minister's called the living bridge, the more than 1 million people of Indian origin who now call Australia home. For Australia, our domestic resilience, including our economic strength and our multicultural democracy, contributes as much as our diplomatic efforts and our military capability to our national strength. Modern Australia is multicultural Australia. They're the same thing. At a time of increasing global uncertainty, we need to protect and strengthen social cohesion as we navigate divergent views. Diversity strengthens us at home. That's why we're delighted to have people of Indian origin who are making Australia a richer and more diverse place. Let's look at the economic relationship and how that benefits us both. Australia is pleased to have over 140,000 Indian students in our tertiary institutions this year. That builds friendship, long-term connections. It's good for Australia, it's good for India. But education shouldn't be a one-way street. And that's why Australia has led the world in responding to India's invitation for high-quality foreign universities to establish branch campuses here in India. 2 Australian universities, Deakin and Wollongong, were the first 2 to set up world-quality campuses in India, with another 5, that will be 7 in total, committed to opening campuses in India. That's more than any of India's other partners are offering. So, across the strategic, the economic, and the human domains, in these uncertain times, reliability is a virtue. More than ever, it's a virtue we should prize, something that's increasingly rare in this contested world. Whether that's in our work in the Indo-Pacific, supporting our shared economic security, or nurturing the connections between our people that make us stronger. In the face of all the challenges that we face today, I'm optimistic that Australia and India, working closer together, can protect each other's security and economic prosperity and make benefit for the region and the world. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, High Commissioner, for that address. And now let's quickly, of course, move on to our next segment where we're going to be talking about the hospitality industry. For Next in Hospitality, we have a power-packed panel with us, and to discuss the theme of IHCL, of course, one of the pioneers in the space in India. From aspiration to acceleration, IHCL. To discuss this, we're joined, in fact, by the CEO of Taj Hotel, Resorts and Palaces, Mr. Puneet Chhatwal. Could we please have you on stage, CEO, Taj Hotels, Resorts and Palaces. Thank you very much, Mr. Chhatwal, for being with us. Also with us is CEO, BW Communities, Mr. Bhuvanesh Khanna. Welcome to NXT 2026. And this session is going to be moderated by Senior Executive Editor of NewsX, Megha Sharma. Megha, I invite you on stage as well and hand the floor over to you. Let's keep the applause going, ladies and gentlemen.
A very good morning to you all, ladies and gentlemen, in what a special August company I'm in. I'm being joined by Mr. Puneet Chhatwal, the CEO of IHCL. There is no introduction that is needed, but I also have with me Mr. Bhuvanesh Khanna, CEO, BW Communities. You know, Bhuvanesh, let's start with a few words and then go on with our fireside chat.
First of all, Puneet is the Managing Director of IHCL, which is the owner of the Taj brand and all that comes with it. But Megha, thank you for having us over here. Thank you to Aishwarya, Kartikeya, Rishabh. You know, doing this session is extremely special for an industry which is going places. For those of you who've not tracked the Indian hospitality industry, I would urge everybody to look at it as a serious career, because this is where you look at places which you can never imagine and meet people you can never imagine. And Indian hospitality has yet to start in true earnest, and the beginnings have already been shown by the man who's sitting to my right, Puneet Chhatwal. He's India's biggest hospitality export, and he's come back. And come back how? Puneet, thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, good morning. When I started writing the script, it was evening. Few leaders in global hospitality have managed to honor the legacy while simultaneously re-engineering the future of the company and the economy. When Puneet Chhatwal took charge of the Indian Hotels Company, a Tata enterprise, in 2017, the organization already possessed a power brand, Taj Hotels. But what we have witnessed since then has been nothing short of strategic renaissance. I call it strategic renaissance from where it's in under 9 years. I think Puneet joined in the November of 2017, Puneet. IHCL has strengthened its balance sheet, sharpened its brand architecture, embraced an asset-light growth strategy, and built one of the most dynamic pipelines in the industry, which he shall speak about. From heritage and luxury of Taj to the reinvention of Ginger Hotels, IHCL today represents the full spectrum of Indian hospitality, combining Indian heritage, global excellence, and sustainable growth. Many would say that if Indian hospitality today is flying higher than ever, IHCL has become one of the power engines that has led to its ascent. And I'll speak about the ascent in terms of engines of growth in a bit. But for now, let me welcome Puneet Chhatwal. Welcome to the show, Puneet. Megha, the first one goes to you.
Yeah, the first one goes to me, and of course, the turnaround story.
But the segment we begin with is, of course, called...
That has been, historic. 2017 to 2026, how did you go about taking this challenging task at hand and delivering time after time after time?
Well, thank you, Megha and Bhuvnesh. I think it's three simple words I would say that describe our journey. The number one is belief. That belief came with the product we had, almost 120 years of, or 115 at that time, of legacy, as the word used by Bhuvnesh. So there was an inherent belief that this is what your roadmap should be. And in order to do that, the second word that describes is a strategy, which includes all the metrics you put in and includes the talent and the people who are going to deliver on that promise. And finally, I would say relentless execution. So we say we promise, we deliver. Ideally, we deliver a bit more than we promise, and we deliver it in a little less time than we have guided for. That worked very well for us, I would say, except for 6-7 quarters of COVID, where the sector was shut down. And thanks goes to all our forefathers who created that wonderful platform, starting with Jamshedji Tata, who built in 1903 the Taj Mahal Palace and Tower, opened in Colaba, consistently acclaimed as one of the best hotels in the world. And then in the 70s and early 80s, when we got all the palaces, the Rambagh, the Lake Palace, Udaipur, later followed by Jodhpur and Falaknuma, and we have it all. And then the question is, how do you capitalize on it? And how do you align it with a changing India? India was not only about just, foreign tourist arrivals coming in at a luxury end of the market, or just the luxury traveler. As India has become an emerging strong player on the global stage, we need all customer touch points, and that's how we went on reimagining our brandscape, launching new brands, acquiring some existing ones to get today to an active portfolio of 12 brands, although we are still very happily known for the Taj, and we would like to be known for the Taj. And to just end this on a very small anecdote, I would say we were always known for the rose petal rain in the palaces, where the petals of roses would fall when the customers would come in. So we have, I think, found the right balance from roses to ROCE, which is return on capital employed. So as a sector, we have taken charge, and I think very well understood by the rest of the sector in India, and this is a sector to watch for Viksit Bharat 2047.
Couldn't have been better put.
Puneet, that transformation could not have happened by chance. It was clearly powered by a set of underlying strategic engines. Engines is very important for me when I chat with you. Let's talk about the Rolls-Royce engine analogy. You've been powering the industry's flight path. Some observers compare IHCL today to the Rolls-Royce Trent engines that power long-haul aircraft like the Airbus 380, 350, efficient, powerful, and defining the performance of the entire ecosystem. My question to you is, what are the underlying engines of IHCL's growth today? Is it the brand architecture, the asset-light strategy, the capital discipline, or the cultural transformation within the organization? You're the best person in place because you're the architect of what's happening.
Actually, you answered it yourself, so I think it's all of the above that you mentioned. But I think foundation of any service business is your brandscape. So our transition from a branded house where everything was Taj or by Taj or a bit of Taj to a house of brands, making every brand an important business in itself was the starting point. The second is obviously the right capital structure from a very highly leveraged company with a lot of debt. We went into almost net debt-free company today with very large cash reserves, which are larger than the highest amount of debt that we ever had. The third is obviously the service excellence. We have tried to put our operational excellence that we had with the Taj into other brands for those relevant customer points. The fourth, which is also very critical, is your core values. So the first three cannot be delivered if your core values are compromised. And our core values, very simply, are the same as for Taj, for all other brands, where we say Taj is defined as the trust, the T for the trust in all our stakeholders, A for the awareness of the communities we live in, work in, operate in, and joy is the J in doing whatever we do. So I think these are the core values. We can change business strategies, we can change plans, we can change capital structure, we can change capital light, asset light, capital heavy, owning asset, not owning asset, every second year. But what you can't change is your value system. So if your value system is strong, it helps you navigate through all the strategy. And then comes the last most important pillar, which is we are a people-intensive business. So whether it is our customers or it is the people serving our customers. And I think the old saying still works very well. You take care of your people, they'll take care of your customers, the customers will take care of your top line and the bottom line, and they'll keep coming back and you'll keep growing.
Absolutely, and I do remember, the tragic incident that happened, the unfortunate 26/11 attacks, and there were a number of those anecdotes where the service staff would not leave the hotel because, when the very essence of Taj, the principles that they followed, it was to serve the customers, to save them, to protect them. And that's the essence, that's the core value that you talk about Taj. How does IHCL build that when you hire these employees?
I think there is a series of programs people go through. So first is walking the talk. I think the people who are in the system have to exude those values. If they are not exuding, you can teach anything in theory, then in practice it will not work. Then we have a program which is called Taj Swagat, then we have Tajness training, then we have those Tajness attributes of leadership, then we have the code of conduct. Our staff magazine is called Tajness. Very much this month, on the 24th of March, I don't know how many people will remember in the audience, 24th March, 4 years ago was the year of, 6 years ago, was the year of lockdown. True. When the sector was locked down, 22nd of March was the Janta curfew. So we took cue from that, the way the hospitality sector demonstrated resilience, served the frontline workers, hosted them in hotels when they were not welcome in their homes. We called it the Tajness Day, and so every 24th March we celebrate that across the world, not just in India. We celebrate it across the world. We combine it with some form of ESG plus initiative, and let this year also be a surprise because you'll read about it in the next few days about what we are going to do. I don't want to give that story away. So every year we do that. We celebrate the families, we celebrate the people, the staff from morning till night in our properties, from starting with breakfast to lunch to high tea to dinner, cultural programs, etc. So I think it's those values, the way you live them, the way you exude them in your 365 days and 24/7, because we never shut down, right? Like any other sector, our machinery keeps working for every hour of the day, every festival of the world. And Christmas, New Year, we are always on. So I think that is the relentless demonstration of customer centricity, people centricity that helps you get through.
Absolutely. That's so good for an industry which is a 24/7 industry. But tell me, Taj clearly, under your charge, IHCL seems to have thought through as an engine of growth the capital and ownership of this industry. So let's talk about the asset-light pivot, re-engineering capital and growth. One of the boldest structural shifts has been the move from asset-light portfolio to a predominantly from an asset-heavy portfolio to an asset-light portfolio, which has helped unlock great value. My question is, how difficult was it to change the mindset of historically asset-heavy hospitality company, and what lessons would you share about balancing ownership, management contracts, and partnerships in a market like India?
Well, Bhuvnesh, very interestingly, we did communicate on Capital Light that we'll have a balanced portfolio. We have not ever walked away from owning assets. So we still own a significant number of our assets. When we turn the clock back to 17-18, we were at maybe 70% asset heavy or capital heavy and 30% capital light. Today is the other way around, is 30% capital heavy, 70% capital light. But very important, our portfolio has grown 4x. From 150 hotels portfolio, we've gone to 600 plus. So the amount of heavy has also grown. However, under the premise which I would call own selectively, partner widely, and manage globally. So I think we took that as a mantra. We had mature brands. There was a time to leverage the brands, to go into a service-driven business so you get the best of the operating leverage from the owned and still have margin expansion through the capital light model, and that makes you more resilient for the next downturn if and when it would come. So I think the relentless execution, which I said at the outset, was the key. And it would not have happened if we did not have the proper brandscape. And doing growth by brand, by geography, by contract type is an art and science, which I think we have practiced pretty well and have become a benchmark which others are following also now, definitely in the Indian subcontinent.
So Puneet, along with the financial transformation, what really stands out is the way you've done the transformation of your brand universe, if I was to say. Let's call it the reimagining of the brandscape. IHCL today arguably has one of the most strategically led brand architectures in hospitality, spanning Taj, Selections, Vivanta, Ginger, and newer collections. My question to you is, when you look at the IHCL brandscape today, what role does brand play in your long-term strategy, and how carefully do you guard against brand dilution while expanding scale?
If you have clear segmentation, then the brand dilution does not happen. As an example, we did launch Ginger, but it was never done for a variety of reasons in a way it should have been done, because the world changed post 9/11, then India went through the 26/11 crisis. Also, we had the global financial crisis, and we had gone international, so we were, not doing that well on the international assets. But holistically, looking at Ginger, I never used to say it before, but today we can very proudly say at the end of this year or the coming financial year, will be 250 Ginger hotels in India. Now, this positioning scale matters. When you do a luxury hotel like one Taj, it's not that important to have scale, but it's very important to have that luxury quotient in it, that feeling of being special and unique. But Ginger has a potential to be 1,000 hotels in the next 10, 20 years. Every district capital in India could have a Ginger. We could have 20 Gingers in the city of Delhi NCR. So that's one. Second is getting dominance in certain markets. So as we are in Delhi, as we are in Bharat Mandapam, if I try to circle the heart of Delhi from the Ambassador to the Connaught to the Taj Mahal, which is popularly known as Taj Mansingh, to the Ginger in Chanakyapuri, which was the Daman Bhavan initially, to the Taj Palace, and on the outskirts, the Vivanta and Dwarka, we have a very strong dominance, especially in Lutyens Delhi, and not to forget, we added exactly 1 year ago, this month, last year, the Claridges. So if you look at the heart of Delhi, IHCL is the dominant player with all kinds of brands. As Connaught, an ambassador, would feature into our collection, which is called IHCL Selections. The two Taj properties, one known for conventions and conferences and big weddings, the other one possibly the best boutique luxury offering in India today. This is Taj Mansingh. Together with Claridges, it just controls that part of the market with the biggest surprise element of having a Ginger in Chanakyapur.
True.
So I think there is always, as I said, the art and science of growth, how you grow by brand, by geographic dominance in key metros and in key markets. I mean, not many people would know, if I add homestays to our thing, we have a brand called Ama. In Goa, today we operate almost 50 plus properties. So the first luxury hotel of Goa was the Fort Aguada, which came up 51 years ago. Yeah. And today we have almost 16 or 18 hotels under various brands in operation, plus another 30 plus homestay properties. So I think that is the key. It's a dominance in key markets of India. We have iconic assets to affordable, priced, upscale, mid-scale segments, including homestays, and all done with purpose, all done with responsible growth, all done, as I said before, the A of the Taj, which is awareness of the community, keeping the community at the core of anything that we do. You know, the very famous quote of Jamshedji Tata, that community is not just another stakeholder, rather the purpose of the existence of any business.
True.
So I think that has worked over a century for us. I see no reason why it would not work for the next century for us.
Absolutely.
You know,
I'm out of
moment,
time. I would have wanted to speak to you for hours together, but what an insightful session. Puneet, thank you very much for joining us, speaking to us, and giving us this insightful, transformative story of IHCL. And of course, congratulations and all the best wishes for the next 20 years.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and best wishes for this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet. Thank you, Megha.
Thank you all very much for joining us at NXT 2026. And let's now, in fact, turn our focus to the segment of Next in Healthcare Tech. Next in Healthcare Tech will be our next segment, and to speak about the theme of rehabilitation robotics, we have a keynote address by a very special guest who's with us in this grand hall at Bharat Mandapam, New Delhi. We have the Director, Roll Laboratory, Columbia University, with us now in the room. And Professor Sunil K. Agarwal, I invite you for this keynote address. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, please.
First of all, thank you for this kind invitation. It is a pleasure to be here among such distinguished people from all around the world. I will share with you today about a sub-area of medical robotics called rehabilitation robotics, where the goal is to use robotics to improve human functions. All of us every day, let me just try it. Yes. So all of us everyday tasks, we do everyday tasks such as walking, standing, turning, and so on. These are simple tasks for all of us. However, think of someone who has had a recent stroke, or a spinal cord injury, or born with a cerebral palsy, or older adults. These simple motor tasks become a challenge for them. There are usually no pills that you can take to regain these functions. Motor practice is the prescribed medication, and it requires time and intense practice. The scientific framework behind motor practice is neural plasticity. The nervous system has the ability to change its activity in response to is intrinsic or extrinsic stimuli. Practice reorganizes the structure of the nervous system and its connections. Motor principles that are used in retraining of the nervous system include progression, repetition, and challenge. So our robotics and rehabilitation laboratory at Columbia University uses robotics to measure movement of the human body and apply appropriate forces on the segments to change the difficulty level and train the nervous system. I'll give you a number of examples today in my talk today. Our robots are like the training wheels on a bicycle when children are learning to bike. The children use these until they improve the skills, and then they throw these away. So this is how we see these rehabilitation robotics. So let's kind of go through some concrete examples. So in the United States, there are about 7 million survivors of stroke, right? And I'm sure that there is a similar ratio here in India as well. A clot develops in a blood vessel, and blood supply to the brain gets affected. Survivors of stroke continue to have weakness in one side of the body. They walk with a limp, and on the weak side, they have a foot drop. They drag their toes and hike their hips to clear the ground. So in order to rehabilitate people with this impairment, we developed a robot called ALEX. It's an acronym for Active Leg Exoskeleton. And it applies assist-as-needed forces to help the subjects to walk. And of course, there is an important engineering design process. We are not going to get into that today. But with these devices, the subjects underwent 15 training sessions over 6 weeks. And overground walking speed was one of the outcome measures after your training was finished. And what we were able to show that the overground walking speed for a group of individuals who were trained with this robot, they were able to improve their walking speed from the baseline to the post-training. And the group retained these changes 6 months later and even further improved it. This is consistent with published works in stroke rehab. Once the change is initiated in the nervous system, the participants further improve it with practice. Subsequently, our group created and tested other exoskeletons like ALEX 3, which is a bilateral exoskeleton, a cable-driven exoskeleton, where cable tensions are controlled to apply torques at the joints. And this is motivated by puppeteering, where puppet masters are able to move body segments around. So all these machines were tested with stroke patients. And in fact, these are all published works that you can look up if you're interested. And these demonstrate the efficacy of these technologies. And there's a potential to bring these technologies to the global market, because stroke is not something that happens only in the United States, but there is about 2 to 3% of population in the world actually is living with after effects of stroke. Let me move on to another group of individuals. So cerebral palsy is a brain impairment at birth and affects about 500,000 children in the United States. It is a lifelong condition. Many children are on wheelchairs and have deficits in trunk control. We created a trunk support trainer, we call it TRUST, and you'll see that in operation and some of the studies that we have done with these children. And what it does is it simulates forces applied by a therapist's hand using motors to help retrain the trunk movement. Now here is data on the left that you see with 3 children who were trained with this TRUST across 12 training sessions and with a 3-month follow-up period. The plot shows how the workspace area changed across the training and evaluation sessions. Children progressively expand their sitting workspace during and after TRUST intervention. Okay, not only does it improve... No, sorry. Can we go back, please? Yeah, and just...
us. It was a long way. Everyone here is so kind. It made her feel so at home.
I liked all the games.
She plays a lot more with you guys, doesn't she?
She can throw balls better.
If she's eating, she would be able to stand up on her own and then reach over the table and grab some stuff. And she used to not do that at all. And she does her hair in the mornings now.
Well, as you saw, not only does these devices improve the workspace of these children, but also affects the children in their daily tasks. For example, you heard from one of the participants that the child could actually comb her hair. And if you were to think back a little bit, combing of your hair really requires a lot of your trunk activity, which these children did not have. So let's go on to the next segment. Okay, and this is about patients with ALS. So there are about 20,000 people with ALS, which is also called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, in the United States. And ALS is a neurodegenerative muscle disease. Some of you may remember Stephen Hawking when he was alive. One of the challenges that ALS patients face is head drop. That means the inability to move your head around, just like what you are doing right now. And this affects their ability to swallow, breathe, and communicate socially in the dropped head position. So we have developed these robotic neck braces that allow to characterize the motion of the head, neck, along with measurements of the electrical activity of the muscles. The assist head-neck motion in patients with ALS to mimic motions, as you are seeing here, the patients are mimicking the motion of an avatar on a screen, but by themselves, they cannot control the motion of the head. So let me kind of move forward here. In this video, I would like to share with you the results of a study that we have done with Parkinson patients. According to data from Michael J. Fox Foundation, there are about 1 million people in the United States who are living with a Parkinson's disease, right? And I know that this ratio, 1/350, is even higher in India compared to the United States. Now, patients with Parkinson's disease show poor balance control, including something called freezing of gait. So what we did is, I'll show this video here, we call it a T-pad, and I'll give you just a little preview before you can see the video itself. So T-pad was programmed to deliver force perturbation pulses randomly in 4 directions: forward, backward, left, and right. And the intensity of the perturbations was increased in each training block. The results show that Parkinson's disease patients increase their stability similar to healthy controls. So let's see the video.
It looks a little like Harry Greenwald is getting ready to go skydiving, or maybe bungee jumping. But this is actually part of a study to prevent potentially serious falls. Very important because Harry has Parkinson's.
There have been times when I could feel my forward foot not quite grasping the next tread on the stairs. And there are times when we're walking down the sidewalk and I have to remind myself, for posture issues, I should be raising my head and looking ahead because Parkinson's has got me looking down a lot.
40% of people over age 65 suffer a fall at least once a year. That number is much higher for people with Parkinson's because the disease affects their gait and balance. So Dr. Sunil Agrawal at Columbia University has devised a system to teach Parkinson's patients how to keep from falling by training them to recover when this elaborate contraption tries to disrupt their sense of balance.
We give them the experience of being able to recover better from this momentary loss of balance and be able to train their neuromuscular system to be able to be more responsive when a fall appears.
In fact, Dr. Agrawal's study showed that just one training session substantially improved Parkinson's patients' balance and ability to avoid falls. The harness prevents Harry and others from actually falling, of course, and the better they get, the stronger the jolts come, and from different directions. Although Harry had to learn to trust the device.
I relaxed a little and said, okay, I'm not really going to hit the ground here. Hey, it works. The harness really is going to keep me up.
Now, Harry says he's more confident now walking and especially going up and down stairs. The balance disruption system is just at Columbia for now, but it could be rolled out to other medical centers. You only have to prevent a couple of serious falls in Parkinson's patients to make it all cost-effective. You learn.
So as we saw here, imbalance and falls is quite common in older adults. These occur with decline in the quality of the sensory signals or due to inability of the central nervous system to integrate these signals properly. According to the Center for Disease Control in the United States, there are about 69 million people in the United States who have sensory dysfunction. In our daily life, we waste signals from our eyes, ears, and muscles to estimate our pose in space. When walking to the toilet in the night, we rely more on the vestibular and proprioceptive signals. In addition, dual tasks, for example, walking while talking on phone, they take away our cognitive resources from the brain reserved for that walking activity. And we can use the head neck brace, as you are seeing here on the picture here. So let me just kind of, okay, please go back one slide. Yeah, if you can go back to the previous slide, please. Yes. So we can use the head neck brace and virtual reality to introduce controlled noise within the sensory channels of our sensory system and evaluate how this affects balance and gait during walking. And this slide shows the results of an experiment where a group of young participants and elderly subjects from the community walked under two conditions: oscillation of the head. Okay, maybe we can go back here, please. Oscillation of the head or combined oscillations of the head and visual perturbations. Our results showed that older adults have higher variability in gait and balance parameters compared to young adults, to both head oscillations and head visual oscillation condition. These experiments can help discriminate patients and explain their particular sensory deficit. Vestibular rehabilitation is important in geriatrics, where robotics can play a strong role in the future. So let's come to this slide here, which is already on the screen. Okay, we know that when children are growing, so think of an infant who is 6 months old, right? The self-generated mobility is important for their development. This development is multifaceted. For example, spatial awareness, visual perception, posture, and social interaction. Now, these special needs children, there are special needs children who are born with cerebral palsy, or Down syndrome, or autism. And many of these children have delayed development due to lack of motor or cognitive ability and miss out on the developmental milestones. So our thought was, why not bring some of these technologies, such as robotics, to bear on these children? And these are 6-month-old babies, and we wanted to see if they will learn to drive a robot, right? And this is the first time when you put the baby on the robot, the baby really doesn't know the association with this joystick and being able to move around. However, if you are persistent with the child, okay, you will see that very soon they would learn to drive the robot by themselves. So these are 6-month-old babies, you have to keep that in mind. And what this mobility does is allows them to be around in this environment. In fact, we have done a study with almost 25 babies, right? And what we were able to show that these babies can actually learn to drive. I mean, you show them a toy, they will come down and drive and come to you. But the goal here is not just to kind of show them this ability to drive around, but to see how we can integrate these babies within a social environment. For example, one of the studies that we did is we took these babies who are with cerebral palsy and tried to see if we can integrate them in a classroom, right? If you think of a typical classroom, all of these babies all the kids with impairments are sitting in a corner while the rest of the class is doing their wonderful things. And the goal was that through this mobile technology, how could we actually integrate these children within the classroom and eventually in the society. So a few takeaways that I have from my talk today. Okay, according to the World Health Organization, there's 1 billion people in the world who need assistive or rehabilitative technologies, right? So it's a big number that we see around here. Now, we also know that the elderly population, which is typically defined as 65 years or older, is expected to double in the next 25 years. Right? There'll be more people among us who are older individuals, and there are less people who can take care of them. And that's where the technology comes in to fill that role. And this longevity brings many challenges in terms of the quality of life. Now, in my talk today, I give you statistics about what happens in the United States. But it turns out to be that these impairment statistics are very similar all around the world. I mean, we have some colleagues, we have some close colleagues who we work with in Africa with cerebral palsy, and we know that some of the numbers for them are a little bit higher than what we see in the United States and the typical developed countries. So all of these ideas and technology that I am describing to you here can actually be adapted, right, to the Indian scenario or to the Asian scenario or to the African scenarios and so on. Now, we also saw that small improvements in daily function can result in significant improvement in quality of life, right? If you think about that girl who was able to stand on the table and reach out for food, right? What we did was really a training in terms of her ability to move around and move her trunk. But that increased her quality of life, being able to comb her hair or put on a T-shirt, and these are big milestones from the child's perspective. Now, as you may have seen robotics as really a vehicle into manufacturing, right? And so I'm a roboticist by training. Now, robotics, of course, has made big inroads in manufacturing, right? But I think the time is right for the robotics to take the next step, right? Not only to facilitate what happens out in industry or making some of these autonomous machines, but it can be sort of wrapped around the human body, right? What could be more important, right? We as citizens or we as people to see how we can create technologies to help the people and the loved ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Agarwal, for that very futuristic and, of course, also thought-provoking address and presentation. Okay, we are going to, of course, be quickly now turning our focus to our next segment today, which, of course, is going to be part, of course, of the Next in Global Affairs theme and, of course, special segment. To talk specifically about the future of BRICS and more, we are very, very privileged now to be joined by Professor, Institute of China and Contemporary Asia at Russian Academy of Science. We have with us, of course, now on the stage, Professor Dorji Tolaroya. Professor Tolaroya, welcome. Thank you very much for being with us. We're very excited for your address. Let's encourage him a bit with some applause.
It's a pleasure and honor for me to speak to this distinguished audience on a topic which I find to be of crucial importance for the future of the world order. Because BRICS, I think, is the instrument which can be used to create a new multipolar world order, which wouldn't necessarily be more just or stable than the current one, but we're going to move there. And BRICS is too young to fall down from a jolt, as Professor Agaway have shown in his presentation. So now BRICS experiences the stress test. But we should first ask, what are BRICS' advantages? It's a model which is based on the network, not hierarchy. It's evolutionary in nature, not created according to some blueprint. It's based on a function rather than set form. And it is based on polycentric, not dictatorship ideals. So the benchmark of BRICS are sovereign equality, flexibility, pragmatism, renunciation of hegemony, and consensus decision-making. So this is what makes BRICS a very promising platform for the countries of the global south, for the countries of the developing world, to develop new ideology, to develop new cooperation model, to make all the interests and their ideals to be taken into account. I show here some principles and how they evolve. I won't elaborate on this to take time. But now I would say that BRICS is a little bit too broad to be fully operational and functional, because new members which have been taken into the BRICS in 2024, they're still in the process of getting to work together as a team. And this creates some problems. So now we actually have several tiers, like the principal founding members, original 4 plus South Africa, then the newly accepted members, and also BRICS Plus partners, some of which may join BRICS later, some may as full members, some may not. So this is the situation. And now, as I've mentioned, BRICS is experiencing a stress test because the Middle East events have become an ideal firestorm. First of all, it's the instance of a direct conflict between two BRICS members. Iran and United Arab Emirates are now exchanging missiles, and there's direct conflict. This is sort of a big blow to the BRICS modality as a geopolitical alternative for security and consensus and compromise building. So this is a very hard lesson. Of course, we had similar conflicts, for example, between China and India, but China and India are well-established, mature powers which know how to settle their conflicts. And by the way, BRICS was one of the venues for both parties to negotiate and to find the solution to their conflict. But in this case, I think it's more of a significance for the future of the BRICS. Also, this current conflict, it brings a heavy blow against the BRICS spirit of non-interference. And United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia are forced to rely on Western air defense rather than BRICS-based defenses. And of course, BRICS so far have not managed to make any moderation efforts. Not to speak about the economic volatility and economic blow, record high oil prices and damage to the BRICS oil exporting members, weaponized finance, which are used by the United States. The dollar is used by the United States to punish this country as a BRICS member. So this is maybe one of the goals of U.S. to weaken the BRICS, on which Donald Trump has several times spoken. So actually, even inside the BRICS, we have some kind of three camps. One includes Russia and China, which in fact support Iran against the aggression. Pragmatists like India, Brazil, and South Africa, they are sort of neutral. And also the conflicting members are just on the front line. So what would be the evolution of the BRICS given this situation? One is sort of fragmentation, becoming just a venue for meetings. Then in this case, BRICS can stop pursuing a political security agenda and reverts to a loose economic forum. It may become Sino-centric, with China will play the central role. This is something that's not acceptable for India, for example. Or it may become a sort of a two-speed group, a co-group like China, Russia, Iran, with a hard anti-Western rhetorics, while others maintain a more balanced approach. One issue which we may address is that BRICS may be in need of institutionalization to overcome these challenges. So far, we don't have any administrative structure. Every country has a chair. This year, India is a chair. They carry the function of a secretariat. So it makes it very difficult to form a joint position. For example, still we don't have any BRICS statement or position on the Iranian conflict, which would have been quite very relevant. The efforts are being taken in this direction. I cannot elaborate more, but so far we have none. So I think that it would be a good idea to have at least a technical secretariat to have the intersessional continuity and prepare the meetings and have the implementation of the resolutions monitoring mechanism, to track progress on summit decisions, and to have a sort of legal personality, so there would be a mailbox of BRICS where you can just address with some ideas. This is how I define the possibilities and the opportunities for BRICS to progress, to overcome the current crisis. And it's both fortunate and unfortunate that the major power like India is in charge this year, because it's exactly India which is known for its initiative and ingenuity for proposing new ideas on BRICS. For example, the New Development Bank idea was first proposed by on the expert track held here in New Delhi. I was a part of it 11 or 15 years ago. So I think that India, Bharat may produce new ideas, new concepts for BRICS, which would invigorate it, would bring a new life into this very promising and maybe the unique platform which could bring the humanity to a better future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Tolaroya, for that address. Of course, it's very, very important. You are in India, so we have to, of course, speak about BRICS, and you delved on that, and of course, a lot more. Thank you for that address. Okay, now it's time for another much awaited session actually of today. It's time to call on stage now another familiar face who we had at NXT's inaugural edition last year, and of course he's back with us today as well to speak in the next segment, which is Next in Nutrition. We have first for a keynote address on Bharat Nutrition and Lifestyle Classroom, holistic nutrition, integrative and lifestyle medicine expert and author, Shri Luke Coutinho. Could I welcome you on stage? And let's have a round of applause for him, please.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see so many of you here. A lot of students from medical colleges around. I like that. Today we have a very exciting session. We have a panel of doctors and discussing our Prime Minister's vision on reimagining health, the future of medicine, lifestyle, and prevention. But before that, you're at this amazing platform, NXT. The purpose of this was brainstorming ideas and putting them into action. You see, in today's world, there are a lot of ideas, and there's a lack of execution of great ideas. I want to start off by telling you what happened last year at NXT. Our Honorable Prime Minister asked us to create a Bharat-inspired nutrition and lifestyle framework for the country. The belief of Made in India and Heal in India. And what's happened under the mentorship of Shri Kartikeya, who is also the brain behind NXT, and we have Dr. Aishwarya Pandit. We launched something which was spectacular, the Bharat Dish and Lifestyle Tips inspired by our Prime Minister. We also had the Bharat School Menu and Lifestyle Plan, where every month, every school in our country, every household in our country, and every university has access to a vegetarian and a non-vegetarian meal plan for the entire month, with a focus on the macros, with a focus on nutrients, and a focus on using Indian local foods to improve nutrition and lifestyle at the grassroots levels. Then we created the Bharat Nutrition and Lifestyle Classroom. Our Prime Minister has a very simple vision. While we treat disease too late, how do we make health creation early? For that, we created the Bharat Nutrition and Lifestyle Classroom, and today we're going to talk about the amazing preventive cancer screening initiative. We had the Bharat Dish that launched out. If you see this little QR code over here, right now if you take your phones out and you click this QR code, you will have access to every menu that's been ever made for the country, and you will have access to the Bharat Nutrition and Lifestyle Classroom, which you can play for yourselves as well as your children or your schools. On the 31st of May and 1st of June, the Bharat Nutrition and Lifestyle Classroom was a free session for children between 7 and 10. We had sessions over the whole country in English and Hindi. This has now moved into an expert-guided classroom where we have experts from across the country who have broken down the classroom into nutrition, movement, sleep medicine, emotional wellness, and the integration of yoga, pranayama, and movement. As we speak, children across the country have this played for them in schools and by their parents at home. Our Prime Minister's vision is that education should be digital, and it should be able to reach any one of our citizens across the country. We broke this down into nutrition, into exercise, into sleep, into yoga, because for the longest time we believed that only nutrition can actually fix the health crisis. But today we understand that there's a lack of physical activity. One of the strongest pillars in lifestyle medicine is sleep, and that is something that all of us have to improve. It becomes now a clinical pillar in integrative and lifestyle medicine. And while the world is looking for complicated exercises, which we can do, we should not forget our tradition of yoga and pranayama, how our own system of scientific breath work becomes the number one way to reduce stress levels and regulate your nervous system. The curriculum is built on balanced nutrition, exercise, sleep, emotional wellness, and yoga. We have schools across the country who have embraced this right now, and it continues to be embraced. Over the last couple of days, we had schools from across the world, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Australia, reaching out to understand how this program works so that they can run it in their own curriculums in school. Now we expand the vision, the Namo Shakti Rat Breast Cancer Screening Initiative, which our Honorable Prime Minister spoke about. This is an initiative, again, of Sri Kartikeya and Dr. Aishwarya, where healthy women and empowered families, we look at prevention as key. They picked up a Guinness Book of World Records for doing the most amount of screenings in 24 hours. 20 mobile screening vans ensuring timely screening and early detection. The ITV Foundation achieved the Guinness World Record for the most AI breast screening across states in India, and this will soon become a nationwide affair. Prevention is always better than cure, and that's why it is imperative that we focus on early symptoms and then the right treatment. In collaboration, we will now integrate nutrition, lifestyle habits, and daily routines amongst all of our people across the country to strengthen the model of healthcare. We have to move from a model of sick care to healthcare and prevention, and that is absolutely the vision. So the future of healthcare begins early. Right knowledge. How many of you get all of your knowledge from Instagram and social media? Put your hands up. It's okay, put your hands up. How many of you are confused? Keep your hands up if you are. It's the same amount of hands. We don't need confusion. We need right knowledge, and we need action. If there's one thing that's missing today in our country, we have a lot of information, we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of content, we have platforms that bring amazing people like you together. But there's one thing that's missing that is forming a major dent in our healthcare system. That is the lack of action. While you continue to learn, while you continue to absorb more information, it's extremely important to put it into action, because we only get the results of great knowledge when we add action to it. So thank you everyone for listening. I would advise all of you to invest in prevention, keep following the Bharat Nutrition Lifestyle. All of you over here, we can contribute in one way. When we unite as a country, all of us may not be doctors, nutritionists, and engineers, but we have a human heart and a human brain to share the right knowledge and share information amongst our communities and societies, so together we educate and together we enable people to move into action. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Luke, for that inspirational address, of course. And yes, as you said, you have translated a lot of your thoughts into action already. And that's what really NXT is about, isn't it? Like we mentioned in yesterday's chief guest's address. Okay, let's now move on very, very quickly. Staying with this segment of Next in Nutrition, we now will be having a panel, in fact, on Next in Nutrition. And in fact, to speak about the theme of the future of nutrition, we have a very, very holistic panel that we've drawn together for you. So I want to quickly call on stage now, one by one, all the panelists. Professor Shilpa Bhupati Raju, could we please have you on stage first? From Harvard, T.H. Chan School of Public Health, Professor Bhupati Raju, I invite you on stage. Also, joining us for this session is Dr. Shashank Joshi, endocrinologist. Dr. Joshi, welcome to NXT. Dr. Manveer Bhatia is also with us live, neurologist and sleep specialist. Dr. Manveer Bhatia, please come on to stage as well. And oncologist Dr. Garvit Chitkara also joins us now at the Bharat Mandapam in Delhi. And once again, coming back on stage to steer this conversation forward in the role this time as a moderator is holistic nutrition, integrative and lifestyle medicine expert and author Luke Coutinho. So Luke, handing the floor over to you once again.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we have this amazing panel of very, very busy experts who have taken time out of their schedules. Some of them we have Professor who's traveled in from Boston. We have doctors who have traveled in from Bombay to share the next 25 to 30 minutes with something that will help us to reimagine the way medicine, lifestyle, and nutrition now starts to work. We have a health crisis in our country right now. Is medicine treating just the symptoms, and is lifestyle fueling disease? Is our medical system fragmented? And if it is, how do we integrate it together to bring the best experts together to move from a model of illness to wellness, to have prevention before prescriptions? Before I sit today, I want us to understand that we're living in a country where we have expert doctors, we have nutritionists, we have personal trainers, we have nutrition, we have alternative medicine, but yet we're the diabetic capital of the world. Yet we have people dying from cardiovascular events when they shouldn't have. And we have cancer that's sprouting all over the country rapidly. What's going wrong? What is the problem? Is it that the medicine is not good enough? That's not true. Or is it that we're not treating lifestyle disorders? Today we have an amazing panel. I want to start off by introducing Professor Shilpa. Thank you for coming in all the way from Boston. Assistant Professor of Medicine and Nutrition, Harvard Medical School. We have Dr. Shashank Joshi, Padma Shri Awardee Consultant Endocrinologist at Leelavati Hospital and HN Reliance Hospital. We have Dr. Manveer, thank you so much for being here, Senior Neurologist and Sleep Specialist, Director of Neurology Sleep Center, New Delhi. And we have Dr. Garvit, Associate Director of Breast Surgical Oncology at Nanavati Max Institute Cancer Care. As you can see, we have a very diverse panel that looks at metabolic disorders and lifestyle diseases. And today, we're here to get into their brains and understand how we can all, we have a lot of medical students out here. You're here at the right time to mold your brains in a particular way that is now going to be the future of medicine. Professor Shilpa, I'll start off with you. For decades, we focused on calories, nutrients, but today we're seeing rising metabolic disease everywhere. Is it the problem of food, or is it modern lifestyles? And have we disconnected from the whole ecosystem of lifestyle and healthcare?
Thanks, Luke. It's an honor to be here. For very long, nutrition is very complex. So we've often taken a very reductionist approach. So looking at calories, from carbs, from fat, and we've actually moved away from that. We're looking at foods, and now we're looking at overall diet patterns because nobody eats a single nutrient or a single food. We eat an overall diet. And so research has really focused on looking at these dietary patterns and how they are associated with chronic disease risk. And again, food doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? So what's available to us is shaped very much by structural determinants of health. It's something that we talk quite a bit in the public health space. So, along with food, your lifestyle, how much are you moving around? What does your food environment look like, right? If you want to change diet, but the environment is backed against you, you are losing a battle, right? There's no way you can compete with, the big food giants that are pushing, marketing these ultra-processed foods on us. So I think we need to take a more systems-level approach to NCD prevention, and absolutely diet is very central to that. And of course, lifestyle, sleep. When we're in a better mood, we tend to eat healthier as well. So I think it's time for us to move away from a simple calories in, calories out, carb counting, to looking at what does my plate look like? Is it filled up with the foods that are protective? What does my overall dietary pattern look like?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And we also want to use the NXT platform, which is a platform for brainstorming new ideas. You mentioned the beautiful word ecosystem. While we need an ecosystem, as a country, we also need cleaner air, cleaner water, and we need to break this cycle of adulteration of food, which is also affecting our health in a big way. And because we have so many powerful minds at this session, we're hoping that these problems will eventually be solved for our country and our people. Dr. Shashank, such a pleasure to have you here. India is called the diabetic capital of the world. I know you hear this all the time. Is it purely genetic, or are we witnessing the consequences of rapidly changing lifestyles and food habits?
So, Luke, thank you for having me here, and congratulations to you and Kartika Sharma ji for this wonderful conclave. Unfortunately, we are the world's capital of diabetes, but we want to be the diabetes care and the prevention capital of the world. And you asked a very pertinent question. Do we blame it all to our genes? Probably the genes load the gun, but the lifestyle pulls the trigger. So if your father or mother both have diabetes, your likelihood of getting diabetes is 90%. If one parent, it's 70%. One relative, it's 40%. But you can prevent it by appropriate lifestyle. And we are having the perfect storm. Because as we become affluent, and I call this affluenza, not the influenza, because we are in the NCD explosion, clearly as we become affluent, we become sedentary and we become physically inactive. And then we are exploded with this entire spectrum of ultra-processed foods, which are wrong foods. We eat too much. There is calorie bombs all over. And I'm mindful that, we have barriers between food for all of you all in the audience and everybody around. But clearly we eat too much. We are eating too much of carbs and fats, too little proteins. We are physically inactive. Today is the World Sleep Day, and we have a world expert in sleep here. We sleep less. We are always stressed out. So lifestyle is pulling the trigger in a perfect storm, which is not only making us put on weight, but is causing type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. And unfortunately, over centuries, we are blessed. It's a polygenic disease. So we have the genes, the guns loaded, but the trigger is pulled by the lifestyle. And that's really the truth. And therefore, it's very, very important that we go to the root cause. And I think the root cause is in lifestyle. Because even if we are genetically predisposed and disadvantaged, there are two things. One is, on planet Earth, there are 8 billion people. 1.46 billion people live in India. Around 100 million people live with diabetes. 136 million people live with type 2 diabetes. So we are world number 2 right now. But we would like to be the world number 1, as our Honorable Prime Minister said, in care, in prevention, in policy. And I think we congratulate you and your entire team and Kartika ji for this next generation vision. Can we tap our resources and create and build a movement around physical activity, around mindful eating, around appropriate lifestyle, so that even if we are having a genetic disadvantage, can we make a lifestyle change? And small things. Can we sleep a little better? Can we move a little more? Can we do those extra 1,000, 2,000 steps every day? Can we take better breath? So I think it's important that we ensure that we don't pull the lifestyle trigger on a genetically loaded gun of Indians, and we are all thin fat Indians. Unlike our Caucasian brothers and sisters or our African brothers and sisters, we have little extra fat in our body. And that's actually the trigger, because it's going in the wrong sides, like the vessels, the heart, the liver, the kidney. And that's really pulling out all this trigger of the entire NCD spectrum, not just type 2 diabetes, but a little bit of fatty liver, a little bit of heart disease, and cancer, and so on and so forth. So it's important that we can make a change on the lifestyle, so that even if we are genetically disadvantaged, and now we have genomics, we have AI to screen people who are at risk. But even if you know you are at risk, we need to make a change. And who is at risk? Any person who's got a family history positive for type 2 diabetes, or if your waist circumference is more than 90 centimeters for a man, 80 centimeters for a woman, after the age 20, you should start screening. Because for every one person living with diabetes on planet Earth, another person doesn't know that they have diabetes. We don't screen. 50% people don't know that they have diabetes. And in rural India, almost, every third person doesn't know that they are living with type 2 diabetes. And they land up with complications. So we need a world free from complications of diabetes. We need to detect it early, and we need to be aggressive, but we can even prevent it. And therefore, I think, though we are disadvantaged genetically, which is your question, I think lifestyle triggers make the change.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor, for focusing on lifestyle and prevention. Today is World Sleep Day. How many of you have slept for 8 hours? Put your hands up. Hands up. Anyone slept for 8 hours? 1, 2, 3. I can count these numbers. Anyone slept for less than 6 hours? Put your hands up. Okay, not so proudly, just put your hands up. I'm kidding. Let's introduce you to Dr. Manveer. Thank you so much, a sleep specialist and a neurologist. Doctor, I have a question for you. India is increasingly sleep deprived. We can see these repercussions in medical reports. Like you can look at a report today and tell how much a patient has slept. How serious is chronic sleep deprivation as a driver of disease? And what is the one habit that we should first fix meaningfully if we want to improve our sleep and hence our health?
Thank you so much, Luke. And I think it's wonderful to talk about the disorders or issues which we can come up with the lifestyle modification. And yes, sleep happens to be, we talk about the 3 pillars of health: nutrition, exercise, and sleep, but the sleep specialists say it's the foundation. So if your sleep is good, you will make what is called as good choices for eating, and you will also get motivated to walk. So that's one thing that we always like to say. Sleep deprivation, and I think he has already given a good demonstration by the number of hands which went up. So less than 6 hours per night on a regular basis is called sleep deprivation. How does it impact the health? And I think we'll start with the younger people. What does it impact them? And then we'll talk about the other issues, because that's more pertinent to them. A lot of people talk about this word which has become very popular called as the brain fog. So it kind of came up during COVID, it came up a lot during post-COVID, and it was thought, is it like a neurological symptom of something called as post-COVID? But we do know that sleep deprivation causes this brain fog. And for the youngsters here, they know or they understand that word, that basically your concentration, ability to focus, creativity, productivity, everything is impaired. So they say they sit at a workplace, but they're not able, they know that that's not their best that they are performing. So that's one part of it. Second is, which I want to talk about, especially again to this, pertinent to this population, is emotional liability. People are just very aggressive, very angry, very rash, and they can see it that my personality was not like this. So there is something which happens to you when your sleep is not adequate. The emotional centers in the brain, the emotional regulatory mechanisms start failing. So you are spiking off, or we call it a short fuse. Very easily people are sparking. So that's number 2. Number 3 is all the metabolic problems that we talked about. The diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, strokes, heart attacks, which was shown by the previous speakers about the robotics for the stroke. We have enough number of strokes in our country. So I think there's a very big chunk of the whole metabolic problems. I'll just talk a little bit more about the relationship with weight. So weight or body weight, as it's become like a big thing now about obesity or the nutrition, is that we make wrong choices, what we eat, and the timing of food that we eat. So we have these 2 hormones which control what we eat and how much we eat and when to stop. Just to say, both hormones have gone haywire. So you tend to eat a lot more, and the message doesn't go to your brain that you are full. So you'll keep eating. And you also want to have, the craving is for these carbs, the ice creams at night, the fried foods at night. And of course, adding to that is our 24-hour supply system. I had a patient yesterday, and the father said, I think every Swiggy person and every Zomato person knows my son. And the son was 120 kg, 35 years old. So I think that's the kind of issues that we are sitting with this sleep deprivation.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Dr. Garvit, cancer is often seen as something random or genetic, but increasingly we hear about lifestyle, inflammation, and environment. How much of cancer risk is actually influenced by how we live?
So to put it very easy is that there's only 10% of breast cancer that we are seeing today is genetic. In India, maybe it's a little higher than 10% and it's about 15%. But rest of the breast cancer that we are seeing in India is technically a lifestyle disorder. It is because of what we are eating, what we are breathing, what we are trying to do, whether we are sleeping adequately or not, whether how obese we are, what is our exercise level. So these things make a lot of difference in our body's repair mechanism. The cause of all cancer is DNA repair mechanism, which is where we go wrong when we are not doing the necessary things just to keep our body in shape. And it is not, body in shape does not mean pumping iron in the gym. It means a lot more than that. It means a lot, it means whether we've slept adequately or not. It means what we are eating is correct or not. It means whether we've been able to calm our mind and whether we've been able to do whatever is necessary to go through the day in a calm state of mind. And if that does not happen, it increases the risk of all lifestyle disorders, whether it is diabetes, whether it is neurological problems, or whether it is cancer.
Thank you, Doctor. We have to end this amazing panel, but before that, 30 seconds each, you have the whole of India watching you right now. Professor Shilpa, what is that one lifestyle or habit change tip that you would like to give our country?
I guess eat a balanced diet. Make sure the quality of your diet matters, just not the quantity. You know, when you're thinking about carbs or protein or fat, the type of carbs matter, the type of protein matters, and the type of fat matters. Fat is not bad. We all need fat, but the type of fat we consume is important. And we've shown that, you know, when you make small changes, they don't have to be big, they don't have to be dramatic, that can actually reduce your risk for chronic disease in the long term.
That's amazing. Thank you. Dr. Shashank, your one lifestyle tip.
So I think my prevention mantra has always remained universal. Eat slowly, eat on time, eat right, walk more, do physical activity, do yoga, you know, sleep well and smile. And all of us are digitally intoxicated, so do 1 hour digital detox every day.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Garvit, your one lifestyle tip for everyone watching today.
So we have experts from all over the world here, and you will see the common thing between all of us. So to prevent cancer, decrease your weight, have a healthy weight, have a calm lifestyle, and exercise regularly. That's.
Thank you. I see commonalities between everyone's advice. And like I said, we have the knowledge, but we have a lack of action. That's one of our big takeaways for today. Action. Dr. Manvir, your lifestyle tip for the country watching right now.
So I think consistency.
Beautiful.
Consistency is the key. Do not fluctuate, and a relaxed brain at the bedtime. So we are just in this 24-hour society. Too much connectivity is what's creating a problem. People are saying we can't shut the mind. So have a gap, end the day and start the night, and keep it consistent. You will get good sleep.
Thank you so much. This is such an amazing panel. We have top doctors from across the country, flown in from different parts of the world, and none of them prescribed you a pill. And I hope you never need that pill, because you're going to start your new investment, like, you know, SIPs, long-term. It's consistency with your lifestyle changes. Compound. All of you know the power of compounding, right? Just move away from the financial model and make it your health model. The power of compounding. Thank you, doctors. Thank you so much for such an amazing panel. Can we have a warm round of applause for our amazing panel of doctors, please? Thank you.
Well, that was a very interesting and inspiring session, wasn't it? In our segment of Next in Nutrition. All right, now it's time to talk about the soft power of India, and that, of course, is cinema. It's time to turn our focus to the film industry, to the entertainment sector, for our next session, which is Next in Cinema, and to talk specifically about the theme of future of cinema in the era of AI movies. What is going to be the impact of artificial intelligence on films? Well, for that, joining us now for a very special panel is Ms. Medha Jayashankar, award-winning filmmaker and president, Walk Mix by Audio Futures. We also have with us R.S. Prasanna, film director. Joining us also live is Guneet Monga, film producer. She's, of course, made us proud by winning an Oscar. Shri Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra, very well-known filmmaker, also with us on the broadcast. And joining us live to moderate this session, a new avatar for him today, we have with us the co-founder and director of Wizcraft Group, Shri Sabas Joseph. And we are, as NXT is looking forward at the future, this is also a very futuristic session because our panelists are there physically and they're also there virtually. It's a hybrid session. So for this special hybrid session, I hand the floor over to you, Sabas Joseph.
Good morning, everybody. And just as we walked onto stage, it's good afternoon. So, good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon, Shashi sir. Good to have you here with us. Next represents a thinking and a platform. Right in the heart of Next is X, which signifies for me crossroads. And I think it's at those crossroads all of us stand, all of us sit, and delighted to be moderating this panel. You've heard panels and panels during Next this year. I refer to this one as the Rockstar panel because we've got 4 rock stars joining us on this panel, which really means we are redefining not just the past, but we're redefining the present, looking at the future. And Guneet Monga, multiple Oscar winner on this panel. You can look up her entire repertoire of work and you'll realize how blessed we are to have her on this panel today. There's Rakesh Prakash Mehra, fantastic filmmaker, made films and films, Rang De Basanti, Bhag Milka Bhag, Delhi 6, and Bhag Milka Bhag has had us all running for a long time. There's R.S. Prasanna. He's dealt with all kinds of everyday problems, from erectile dysfunction to inclusivity, and made great films out of it, from Shubh Mangal Savdan to the Tamil version which preceded that, and then the recent inspirational blockbuster, Sitare Zameen Par. And then you've got Medha Jaishankar. She really is the symbol for this Rockstar panel. Travels across the world, lives in India, lives in the US, lives in Canada, lives in UK, and through those 4 lives that she lives a life that is one that's made of dreams. The creator of WalkMix, which is a platform and a tool that is redefining 360 degrees spatial audio, filmmaker, story writer, storyteller, all wrapped in one, worked with some of the biggest stars in Hollywood, some of the biggest technicians that are only dreams made of, and Oscar winners there. And she looks like she's jumped out of a Pink concert done by Prince. And the pink is her signature, and she represents all of us here with pink hair downwards. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Rockstar panel. Put your hands together. My first question to my friends here is very simple. What will cinema look like 10 years from now? What will cinema look like 10 years from now? And I'm going to start with R.S. Prasanna first.
Sabas, opening batsman is very tough, especially, but it's easier when you're opening with a rock star team like this. So, even if you're duck out, you have like really good guys coming up later. So, I don't know what cinema will look like, but I can only tell you that what cinema will feel like. I think cinema after 10 years is going to feel more human. And we're going to go back to basics. There's going to be lots of, like you have AI slop, you'll have a lot of cinema slop, media slop. But I think eventually the cinema that's going to stick is going to be the same old thing. The cinema that tells a story, the cinema that makes you feel emotions. And I think we are living in a world where the Navarasas, the 9 emotions, as we say,
yes,
is even more valued today. So people are going to outsource their emotions to cinema. They say, cinema is going to make me fall in love. Cinema is going to make me feel patriotic. Cinema is going to make me feel like a hero. I think that's already happening because a lot more robotic lives are being led. But Charlie Chaplin made us laugh during the Depression. So it's always emotion. It's going to be always. So cinema, how is it going to look? I don't know. But cinema, how it's going to feel? I think it's going to feel even more human.
Medha, over to you.
You know,
What's your look and outlook for the next 10 years?
Well, if you look at the history of cinema, I began out in caves in France. You can maybe jump over to Edison, moving images, then sound, then color. And now technology is evolving so fast. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years. But I'm a little biased because I'm in the business of immersive media and in the business of selling tools for immersive media. So if you'd like to join the train for technology, I benefit greatly. But I think the cinema-going experience is going to change a lot because for whoever is listening here, I have no idea who is listening or not listening. Raise your hand if you've been to the cinema more than 5 times this year. Oh, there are only, how many people do you think have raised their hands?
20.
20 or so?
About 20, yeah.
Okay. Well, this gentleman
in a hall
actually,
of 1,020.
This gentleman's last movie was a very, very unique distribution strategy that I think is very relevant for the next 10 years, to get people to watch cinema. And what is the definition of cinema? That is actually the question you should be asking, because is it the traditional going to a theater, or is it me wearing a VR headset with earphones, experiencing the world of Avatar or whatever the immersive world is? So to answer your question, I think in the next 10 years, cinema is not going to be just one standalone film. It's going to be the film and the world around it, whether it's social media, games that derive from it, TV shows that derive from it, conversations online that derive from it. So it's not just one entity and one piece of IP, it's a whole universe.
Thank you, Medha. Thank you, Prasanna. Guneet, I'm coming to you.
Yes.
You've
hello.
been the master of borderless storytelling. What are you seeing as the next big change that's coming to filmmaking itself?
I feel the power of cinema, and cinema at large is not going anywhere, There has always been a threat. VCR आ गया, कभी digital आ गया, कभी film से digital जा रहे हैं हम, कभी कुछ. There's always been this fearful audio आ गया, but the sense of community experience and I think is not going anywhere. I think technology will help us in various aspects of filmmaking to enable us to tell our stories. I'm a proponent of technology. I would love to use any technology for distribution, for access to distribution, like language dubs and getting our piece of cinema from India to around the world. I think that is, I feel, the purpose of my life. And at that journey, I dedicate my life to. So I would use technology to double down on any aspect of filmmaking, be it looking at sets, be it looking at how AI can help. But at large, cinema is not going anywhere. It's a much needed cultural connection for all of us to live, eat, breathe. It's not like it's going to die. It will shapeshift. It will always adapt, but it's not going to go anywhere. It's here, the way it is.
Thank you, Guneet. Though you're far away and she's been stuck with some personal pressing matters, despite that, you've taken time out to join us here. Thank you, Guneet. Really appreciate it.
I'm so
Thank
sorry
you.
I was not there.
Missing you.
Yes. Off to you, Rakesh ji. Future audiences are growing up in a world of constant visual storytelling. Your competitor is your audience for every filmmaker. Every Instagram reel is a story. Every film is dying to be made out of each of those stories. Where do you see this going, and how does cinema remain powerful in this new world that has emerged?
We'll have to go to an astrologer to understand the future of cinema, I guess. But as far as my limited view goes, I feel the future will depend on the present. the kind of stories we tell now are going to influence the future filmmakers, the next generation of filmmakers. It's all about storytelling, and it's not about technology shaping it up as such. We'll adapt to that. That's not a problem. Again, the kind of storytelling will depend on the socio-cultural, political, economic, the collective consciousness of the nation and nations as such. How fearful or how fearless the voice of cinema will be now is going to define what's going to happen later. Also, conversations around cinema, I think, have been there. They have died down right now. They will resurface. There will be a resurgence. So the critiques around cinema, the journalism around cinema will play a very important part as to how open the cinema is. And I think the scissors finally will play a big part. It will play a bigger part than AI. So censorship has to be looked into. So these are my views, and I see, like the doctors have spoken before us, I see a generation that is dying to express. I see a generation which is quite angry. I see a generation which is sleeping less. I see a generation which is addicted to the phone. Something will give, and that will reveal the stories, and that will be the future of cinema. I think अभी घड़ा भर चुका है, तो पानी तो बाहर छलके गए. Thank you, Suparas.
Thank you. Thank you, Rakesh. Over to you, Medha. Cinema storytelling is evolving. I'm going back to the way to your answer in technology playing a big role in the storytelling, interactivity, the lack of the linear narrative, and the interactive narrative being the new story. Can you elaborate more and tell us more as what your experience has led you to believe?
What has the, sorry, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way and for this audience, what I should articulate, this aspect that you're...
In terms of gaming and cinema, how are you seeing interactivity? Are you seeing audiences coming into a cinema theater with their consoles to play with the content and be able to develop their own new narrative? Please go ahead.
You know, it's been interesting. I've been going to film festivals for the last 20 years, so is Guneet, and I think everyone here, actually. And when you go to a gaming conference, it's very, very interesting because it's not just the elite class. It's all sorts of types of people from different socioeconomic classes, different backgrounds. You'll see families, and so many more people than a traditional film festival. I think we're being elitist by thinking that there's a gaming universe that's so small compared to the film world. No, it's massive. It's massive compared to what's happening in film. I think they can coexist. They do coexist to a certain degree, but they will merge much more in the future. I hope that answers your question for this audience.
I think so.
Does anyone play video games here? Can we get a show of hands? Oh, as many people as those who go to the theater.
I think you should ask, does any of their children that they know play video games? Then a lot more hands may go up.
Prasanna, to you. Where do you see the inspirational aspect coming in, especially with regard to intimacy versus spectacle?
Wow. You know, when we were scoring the background music for Sitare Zameen Par, Ram Sampath, who's, of course, a wonderful music composer, but a wonderfully, I find him a very beautiful mind. So, in fact, when we were scoring we were doing the background score for Sitare Zameen Par, he said, what you're looking for, Prasanna, is epic intimacy. And you use the same phrase. So I think the spectacle is very often confused to be scale. But actually what matters is the person who's there on that flight. Like when you go on a roller coaster ride, right? You have to make sure that the guardrails are holding you in position in safety. So I think, yes, there is the spectacle, but the spectacle is meaningless without consciousness, without somebody, kind of distilling that for you as an experience. So I think what we're looking at is when you, the epic or the spectacle and the intimacy and all of that, I think even if you take a movie like, let's say, Bahubali or an RRR or Rajamouli or a Spielberg, they have this unique ability to place you in a spot of danger or in a spot of massive visuals where you feel small or you're flying. So I think it's experiential. So again, going back to what Medha was saying, taking from video games, from comic books, you see the point of view of a person is so important, right? So I think if movies can retain the personal and take you on a journey through this exotic world, then you have magic.
And sorry, just very quickly to add to a term you used just now, guardrails. In the face of AI, I think it's the wild, wild west right now. And I'm part of an organization called C2PA that's trying to standardize human authentication in the form of creation. So when we as creators create, we can add metadata to differentiate between AI content and human content, and therefore give different royalty rates to human versus AI content. So I just wanted to add that on to what you were saying. We can create that intimacy, and that, yeah, we should talk about it a bit more.
Gurit, this one is for you. AI is a collaborator, AI is a competitor, AI is your partner. Where do you see AI tools helping cinema makers, independent filmmakers and studios move into the future? Faster, slower, or making all of us obsolete? Where do you see this?
I think there is an answer in your question where you say AI tools, and that is exactly what that is. I feel AI is a tool, and we are all figuring how best to use it. I don't think जो यहाँ है, जो अंदर है, वो कोई भी लेके जा सकता है. Forget AI, So there is a sense of value that a filmmaker, a writer, a creative mind, AI is a derivative of information that is fed by human beings. But human beings have a capacity to imagine beyond that. I mean, we have been making robot taking over the world films, I mean, in the West, in the pop culture. So for a very long time, right? And that's, and then the goodness, the bad, the evil, using robots. I mean, from lots of ways of telling stories with technology. And what I'm trying to say is that was also imagined by humans. So AI for me is a tool which can maybe help us innovate distribution. And I'm fascinated about that. AI for me is a tool that can maybe innovate large-scale set designs. I'm fascinated. I want to know more. How authentic they are, how real they are, because our eye will only crave more natural things. There is a sense of plastic and artificial that nobody likes. So the human experience is what only humans can create. So if AI can come into processes, pre-production, production, post-production, what is the process that can be of assistance to creative minds, to creators, is definitely on the table to discuss and to create and to be part of, and how best to use them. So I feel like AI is additive, and it is threatening not for creative jobs, it is threatening for process-oriented jobs, and that all of that we will down the line see.
Okay.
I hope that.
We're going to our last question, and my request to my panelists is to keep it down to 5 words, maybe maximum 10. I'm giving you a statement. Now we've got Shashi sir in the house, so you have to keep it even simpler. Everyone give him a round of applause. Come on. We've got Shashi Tharoor in the house. Let's celebrate him.
And Scott.
The future of cinema will belong to those who. You're filling in the blank. The future of cinema will belong to those who. And we're starting with Prasanna.
The future of cinema will belong to those who continue to be human and continue to be crazy.
The future of cinema belongs to Gen Alpha.
Guneet, to you.
The future is audacious and the future is here, and it belongs to people who dare to dream.
Rakesh, over to you.
10 plus 5, 15 words, yeah. So the future of cinema will belong to the present of cinema, I must say, and the people who will embrace life with all its bookmarks, will tell better stories.
Wait, what's your answer?
Cinema has constantly evolved. I think cinema will belong to storytellers and the audience. The format you use will keep evolving. We'll move from silent films to talkies, from theaters to streaming, from theaters to home theaters, from cameras to algorithms. But one thing will remain unchanged. The world will always need stories. The question is not whether cinema will survive. The question is, what new form will storytelling take? Please put your hands together for our Rockstar panel, and let's give them a really huge round of applause, not just for those of us in the room, but for the two who are out there on their screens, putting aside their personal challenges to be here with us. Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you, Guneet. Thank you, Medha. Thank you, Prasanna.
Thank you.
Stay awesome. Thank you.
Well, we really enjoyed that session, of course. Future of cinema was the topic, the theme, and of course also, it was also the future of panels that you saw. It was a hybrid mode with half on virtual and half physically in the house. All right, well, we're turning now to our next segment, our next very special segment. Again, this is one of the most awaited segments of the day and of the summit, because now for next in the Indo-Pacific, we are very happy to be joined by the 30th Prime Minister of Australia, Honourable Scott J. Morrison. They will be talking about navigating a new world order, and in the avatar today of a moderator, we have with us the very erudite Member of Parliament Lok Sabha from Bharat, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Thank you both for being with us. This will of course be followed by a special address as well, the Guest of Honour's address by the 30th Prime Minister of Australia. So first we'll of course be having the interaction that will be followed by the Guest of Honour's address as well. Dr. Tharoor, I hand the floor over to you for this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and delighted to see you all. I'm excited by this entire concept of NXT, and seeing all of you from a large number of countries. I've forgotten the exact number, but it's great to have you here in Delhi. And we're really privileged to have with us the redoubtable Scott Morrison. He was joking to me that now that he's no longer Prime Minister, he's happy to talk about anything. But we're going to focus as much as possible on the Indo-Pacific, which is, of course, an area of great interest to both our countries. But before we got there, I mean, I will call him very respectfully Mr. Morrison, but you all know that he was widely known, even in his own country, as ScoMo. And on a memorable YouTube interaction, he demonstrated his proficiency at making ScoMosas. Now, you've got to tell us who taught you that trick.
Well, it was a bit of self-taught, and it's something I've been doing for many years. I actually had breakfast, so it's something I love about Indian culture, and it isn't just cricket and movies and all of these sorts of things.
It's high carb, as you probably know.
It is very high carb, particularly the way I make it.
Well, I'm looking forward to the time when we can share a samosa together, Mr. Morrison, especially one from your hands. But when you're in Delhi, you'll get various and perhaps not of as good a quality as you will produce in the Australian outback. But we've got you here today at an interesting and challenging time in the world. And though we will have to move to the Indo-Pacific, which is where our main focus is, it's difficult to escape the reality of what's going on in the world today, the torrent of drones, missiles, and bombs, which has dominated the periphery of Iran since the 28th of February. Today we're now in the 13th of March. That's 13 full days of conflict that have gone on in the region. Number one, where do you see this heading? And number two, what are the consequences for our countries, yours, mine, and the broader region?
Well, the first point I'd make is, regardless of what plans any of us might have when we're in government, events and opportunities usually come crashing in and will start determining what you might have to deal with more immediately. But that said, what's happening in the Middle East, I don't think is off strategy, particularly from the point of view of the United States. I mean, for more than almost 50 years, what Iran has been doing in the Middle East has at best been a nuisance and worse been terrorising their neighbours and the rest of the world. It is hardly a positive regime, and it is a regime that has threatened everything from oil supplies to the livelihoods and indeed lives of people right around the world, and in particularly in the United States and elsewhere. So the opportunity to be able to degrade and as far as possible destroy their capability to continue to do that is an important objective for which, particularly after the 12-day war, there was an opportunity to do that in partnership with Israel, and that's what we're seeing played out. A window of opportunity has presented itself, and I think the United States, together with Israel, is taking that opportunity. What I think is different to what we've seen in the past, and I know there has been a plethora of narratives that have sat around this particular conflict, but if you look back in the strategy documents of the United States, you will see that there is not a proclivity to want to be engaged in the sort of boots-on-the-ground extended conflicts that we've seen in the past. We saw that, I know it's not the same thing, but in Venezuela, where there was a very quick action, the message was sent, the issue was dealt with. This is a far more complicated issue. It is one involving a far larger regime with a greater military capability. And you will see the United States, together with Israel, seeking to degrade that capability as far as possible and as much as possible up until the point in which further escalation requires them to go effectively off strategy and involve boots on the ground and things of that nature. So while regime change would be desirable, I don't think we can set it up as an objective of success of these strikes. It may well come in the future because of the weakening of the regime, but to expect it to happen within 2 weeks of strikes, well, it'll be the first time that has ever happened in world history. So let's be careful about how we judge the success criteria. I would say the United States, together with Israel, has done more to deal with the menace of Iran than any previous administration.
Fair enough, but Australia has traditionally been a strong upholder of the principles of international law. Surely they've all been breached in initiating this conflict. It's a violation of the Charter, a violation of the sovereignty of Iran. There's been this case for so-called preemptive self-defense, but then the Omani negotiators who were meeting at the very time the first bombs fell, they've been saying that the Iranians had already conceded completely that they would not have nukes, they would not enrich, they'd have zero stockpiles, and all they were waiting for was structured sanctions relief from the US, and the deal was about done. Now, if that's true, then preemptive self-defense also doesn't make any sense. How do we justify an unprovoked assault under international law?
I don't think it is true, is the point. And I'm not surprised that that narrative has emerged afterwards. Has been the narrative, and that's been what we've seen in the Middle East for decades. It's throwing a...
This mic, I think, needs some adjustment, folks, because we're losing Mr. Morrison's voice periodically. But yeah, Maybe hold it closer, sir. Yeah.
I'll try that again.
No, I think we need either a change.
What we've seen in the Middle East, I'm just trying to
They're
say.
coming to you with an alternative mic.
What we've seen in the Middle East, I think, is the use of international systems, the use of international norms as a cover to enable illiberal terrorist regimes like Iran do what they've been doing. The President of the United States is not an orthodox politician, as we were talking about, and to expect him to be behaving in an orthodox way would be unrealistic. And so where international norms and systems are being used to continue what has been an abominable practice, then how on earth can we support them? How on earth can we support them when, if you go back to October 7 and what Iran was able to support with the worst day of massacre of Jews since the Holocaust in a single day. I mean, if we're talking about a breakdown of the international order, that's a pretty good place to start. And so we are dealing with a criminal regime. And when you put it in that context, then I think the United States sought to broker a deal on nuclear, but the Iranians are never going to give that up. They're never going to give it up. And the President called it out, as did Bibi.
One other question on this is, let's take your point as given. The other aspect of this, Mr. Morrison, is that we all know you can destroy things from the air. You can't build a new government from the air. There was much talk of regime change when this action happened. But they're not able to deliver that. And we've got the son of the slain supreme leader now in his place. What has been achieved with all this destruction? Will you really be able to put an end to this regime just from the air and from these assaults?
Well, I don't think that is the objective, certainly in the course of the airstrikes. And I don't think it ever was. Its objective was, as they were sitting down to talks, is to have them abandon their nuclear program, to walk away from their ballistic missile capabilities, and to end their support of their proxies in the region who were destabilising. All three of these things had been consistently rejected for decades, including most recently. That was the objective. And what has added to it quite successfully was pretty much the destruction of their conventional naval capability, which has occurred. And so what we have seen is the most significant degrading of Iran's military capabilities in any time during the revolutionary regime. Now, regime change would be better, but we know how that would have to be achieved, and that isn't a path that I think anyone would want to encourage the United States to take. I find it a bit odd that in some of the commentary that I've seen, whether in the US or elsewhere, they're almost saying, well, you have to achieve regime change, and you have to go in and put some boots on the ground to achieve that. But if you did that, that would be a big mistake. I think it's a very convenient way, and I often see this in the commentary on current administration behaviour, that if it had been anyone else than Donald Trump actually doing this, then I suspect there may be a different way of assessing what the success criteria is. I mean, the President could walk away today, if he chose to, and declare massive victory. The idea that Iran is stronger today than it was a year ago is absurd. It is a deeply weakened state. And that was true before these attacks. How do I know that? Well, you only got to look at the stance taken by Gulf partners when it came to how they may continue to engage with Israel. The idea of the Abraham Accords, for example. I think the Saudis now would see Iran as a diminished threat. And as a result, the idea of a closer relationship with Israel to hedge against Iranian threat, well, that's moved on. Iran is not what it was, and there's one reason for that, and it's still happening now.
It's still happening. Finally, you and I mean, Australia and India, both of us, neither of us is in power in government anymore, but we both follow national policies very closely. We both need trade, and though we're not overwhelmingly dependent on trade through the Straits of Hormuz, we're both significantly dependent on it. How do we shield ourselves and our friends, other neighbors, from the consequences of this ongoing conflict? And do we not have a common interest in seeking it ended as soon as possible?
Well, the short answer to that is yes. And I would think that the end of these hostilities is probably not that far away, and the President has been hinting as much in his most recent statements. And the new Supreme Leader is, I understand, severely injured as we speak. And I suspect both Israel and the United States will seek to maximise what they can continue to achieve in the time that they have remaining. But I think there is a limit to that time. I think it's dangerous to put a specific time on it, because that only shows your hand to your adversaries, and they may seek to wait elements of that out. But when we're talking about things that are going to affect the world for the next 10 years, the Straits of Hormuz could be open in 3 weeks. And yes, that means that in the short term there's been a tremendous impact. But these can rebalance quickly, not immediately, but it can rebalance quickly. And if that happens as a consequence of being able to remove one of the most destabilising elements in the Middle East for a more stable future of the Middle East, well, that's got to be a plus. So yes, we do, and I'd be shocked if there was no consciousness of this, that the Americans didn't understand that this would have an impact on oil prices. Of course they did. The question is, for how long, and to what end, and the balance of assessments about when you cease those operations and go into a different phase.
Right. Well, the prices have been seesawing, as you've seen. 65 before the war, went as high as 120, came down again below 100. We'll have to see, but as you say, it all depends on when it ends, and we'll certainly want to hope, I think, this happens sooner rather than later. Let me take you back to the Indo-Pacific, to the region. You've been Prime Minister when in some ways the Quad was achieving its peak. I think the first Quad Summit was on your watch. If I'm not mistaken, there was a sense that all 4 countries were equally committed to an emerging architecture of cooperation amongst us that was interested in keeping the sea lanes of communication open and in preserving a certain strength, a certain force that might, this is where you may correct me, please, that might have been seen by some as an effort to counterbalance the growing menace of China. How would you rephrase that?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't rephrase it. It may not be the public declaration around these things, but undoubtedly the 4 major maritime powers of the Indo-Pacific in constant dialogue from the leader level down, with everything from Malabar exercises to demonstrating, I think, through public good diplomacy and support in the region by democracies. When I was there, it was about COVID vaccines. Today, it's about humanitarian assistance in crises and so on. I think that remains an important part of the Quad. But I think the Secretary Rubio, with Jaishankar and others after the change of government in the United States, has refocused it, I think, well. I think the Quad was getting a little unwieldy, and I think refocusing that agenda with a strong security base, but understanding economic security as part of security, keeping the focus on maritime domain, keeping it on critical minerals and areas and critical technologies where the 4 can work together. I think space is an important area where the 4 bring unique capabilities and contributions, which can be part of that. But it's very important, I think, for the Quad to be meeting again. I think there's been a range of practical and other issues over the past year which has prevented that. That's unfortunate. But I think at a working level, the Quad has busily carried on with its tasks. Foreign ministers have continued to meet. But it is important, having been a founding member of that as a leader, for those leaders to meet. They don't sit there and work over communiques and all the diplomatic tool-making that goes on at a lot of these summits. What they have to do is candidly talk about the issues that are going on now. I think there's the need for a greater focus on the Indo part of the Indo-Pacific. I think the security in the Indian Ocean, the malevolent and growing influence of China in the Indian Ocean is something that means, I think, a great deal. But it also means a great deal to Australia. It means a great deal to the other maritime powers in the Indo-Pacific. So I look forward to that happening. I think it will. I think there have been practical issues that have distracted. Obviously, there have been issues around trade and other things that have diverted leaders' attention, but I do commend India and all the Indo-Pacific countries for the way they responded to that, stayed focused on task, didn't get caught up in a sense of offence, got the job done, and let's get back to the relationships.
But if you were still PM of Australia, how would you react to the indefinite postponement of the Quad Summit by Mr. Trump's failure to agree to attend one that was due in November of last year? You've had 5 summits, I think, or 6 summits, pretty much without any, I mean, ever since COVID, there's been a summit every year without any glitch, and suddenly the summit that was due last year never happened because Mr. Trump didn't want to come, and it's still not been scheduled. How do Australia and Japan react to that?
Well, President Biden did the same thing with Australia and pulled attendance at one of those as well. So that isn't the first time that's occurred. And that was because of shutdown issues on that occasion. So, you know, when you're working with the United States, these things happen from time to time. The issue is what is their level of genuine practical interest and commitment to the Indo-Pacific? And when you read their national security strategy and their national defence strategy, the Indo-Pacific and China are almost the unspoken word on every single page. It is clear that they understand that as this region, as the defining region for the future of geopolitics and the world order. And the fact that he would prioritise, as I think he's wise to, the meeting with Xi Jinping, which is in a few weeks, that is providing a very important safety valve for the tensions that are there. I suspect those meetings will stay pretty much focused on things within their red lines, not beyond them. They'll focus on trade. They'll talk about, you know, Boeing jets and sorghum and soybeans and all of that sort of thing, and NVIDIA chips and so on. But on the broader issues, I think that dialogue is keeping a stability. Now, that's an opportunity for the rest of the Indo-Pacific, because whether it's the Quad, indeed whether it's AUKUS from our point of view, whether it is the work that is done bilaterally, I mean, the relationships between each of the Quad partners bilaterally, I think, is as important as their combined relationship. And I'll make a few remarks about this later, but Australia worked very hard under my time to take the India-Australia relationship to a whole new level, and that's been maintained. But equally, we did the same thing with Japan. The United States was doing similar things with Japan under several administrations, but I can tell you who drove it. It was Shinzo Abe. And so the knitting together of the network and map of alliances, like-minded partnerships, whether it's the Philippines, whether it's, you know, digital trade agreements with Singapore, whether it just goes on, and ensuring that where you can, you're supporting the strategies we're seeing played in Taiwan to defend themselves, should they have to, then the Indo-Pacific is getting stronger from a point of deterrence, not weaker.
But when you were PM, you endured a bit of a trade war with China. If I'm not mistaken, they tightened up on beef imports from Australia, and you had some how did you work through that?
We held our ground. We held our ground and said no more. I think one of the issues, particularly in Southeast Asia, is for too long, and this goes back to the Obama administration, when China continued to press out in the South China Sea, turning atolls into installations which are now effectively stationary aircraft carriers. Unless you say stop, and unless you say no, then they will continue to encroach. And I think India understands that as well as we do. And that's why I think it is important to collectively be very clear about these things and to hold your ground when you have to. And yes, was there pain? There was. But ultimately, we were able to find alternative markets for our barley, and lobsters got a bit cheaper in Western Australia for people to have at Christmas. And I always thought these things would eventually come down. We took them through the WTO. The following government suspended those actions, but those illegal trade sanctions eventually came off. But you know, I don't think the world can go, and particularly China, can go too long without drinking Penfolds red wine or Grange. The Wuhan Pinot is nowhere as good as what we offer out of South Australia.
All right. Well, look, we are running out of time, and I have one last question for you before you get a chance to lay out your vision of the world to the audience here. And my last question is very simple. How do you see the future of the Australia-India relationship? And I won't talk cricket at all. I'm as much of a cricket tragic as any Australian, but I think we're looking forward to that a little later next year. What do we do politically, geopolitically, commercially, trade-wise, the whole lot?
I'm very excited about the relationship. I was when I was in government, and I was thrilled with what we're able to achieve. I'm thrilled that it continues. I think the nexus between Australia and India is incredibly important, not just for the region, but for the Quad, the relationship with other alliances. And I think Australia is in quite a unique position to both comprehend and work with India. I think neither of us effectively threaten or each other. I think there's an easy relationship. I think there's a lot of overlap in terms of our institutions and these types of things, but increasingly how we look at the region and what the risks are. I think Australia has and continues to show India a lot of respect, understands that we both need room to have this relationship. We have a much closer binding relationship, alliance relationship with the United States. India has a different history with some partners that we would have nothing to do with. But that doesn't mean that disqualifies the closeness of a relationship. And that's what I certainly had with Prime Minister Modi, a very good friendship, similar to the one I enjoyed with the late Shinzo Abe and his successors. You could have a strong relationship, and I think that we have now got an incredibly solid foundation. And, you know, in the past, it was all about cricket and curries. And that's nice, and it's good soft power things, and it's a lot of fun. And I think, you know, India and Australia set the standard in cricket the world over, and the rest just try and keep up with us. And congratulations on the T20. We had a shocker, but, you know, we had a pretty good series with India not that long ago. But I think it has gone well beyond that now. It is now in security, it's in defence, it's in economics, it's, I hope, more in space, it's in supply chains, it's in all of these things. And I think the Australia-India relationship provides an anchor, a very solid anchor for alliances and partnerships in the Indo-Pacific, to which the United States, to which Japan, to which ASEAN and so many others can link to. And so I'd say we're part of the foundation. And that makes me very positive about the future. I'm excited about what's happening here in India, and I think that is going to have a positive flow on for Australia.
Great. Well, I think that's a very positive note on which to, I won't say end, but pause this conversation, because you're in for a special treat. You'll be hearing from Prime Minister Morrison on his vision of the region. He was gracious enough to agree to conduct the conversation first so that I could head off to the airport, and I will be leaving you. But please focus on the larger message which is going to emerge, particularly, I think, taking off from the last portion of our conversation. With those words, thank you very much, Scott Morrison. Enjoyed that. Thank you all for being such a wonderful audience.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Tharoor. And of course, thank you for that session, Honourable Scott Morrison. Dr. Tharoor is, of course, as eloquent in asking the questions as he is in answering them as well. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite on stage for the Guest of Honour's address, the 30th Prime Minister of Australia. Could we please have a loud round of applause for Honourable Scott J. Morrison? He will